Okay, meeting call to order. Meeting call to order at 6:32. Just a quick disclaimer. This meeting will be recorded. It may air live. All attendees are muted upon entry. The host will unmute guests during the presentation, hearing, or citizens' comment agenda item. Questions during the meeting can be submitted in the chat area to be addressed by the chair. Attendees not adhering to the guidelines may be put on hold or removed by the host. Okay, that being said, we'll start out with the chair's announcements. Yesterday, Carlton and I had a good, I thought, productive meeting. It was our second with the town manager. We hope to keep them up either monthly or every couple of months. Some of the things that we discussed just briefly tonight were technical assistance from the town. Not like Josh does assistance like that, but the technical or CPA knowledge. We asked the knowledge of CPA from the town manager's office. Michael Dutton said Jennifer Burke has extensive CPA experience, and he suggested we invite her to a future meeting to tell us more of her background and what she's done with CPA things. We also talked about the consultant for the Hanson's farm, because I had understood it as, but again, it was like the telephone game, you know, this one said that one, it gets changed. We talked about that. He's looking, Michael is researching, getting a consultant to help out with the Hanson's application for the Murray Meats Farm. I believe it was done by, it was Darcy Schofield. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of her, what organization she's with. But she had helped out a lot. And he also said that there's a lot of state money out there for such things. He's looking into that, and excuse me, it would probably involve the grant writer. One of the things he asked is if CPC would be willing to fund a grant writer out of our admin account. Just reading my notes here. Okay, so that was it for that. We talked about signage, two types, recognition of CPA funding while the project is in process, and also what we called a recognition sign that it would stay at the site, like permanently, like renovations of this project was funded by, with community preservation funds. A good example of how that is the Oliver, the herring run in Middleborough on Route 44. That was partially funded with CPC funds. And at the bottom, it notes that. Next thing we talked about pending and or potential CPA applications. One is a memorial building that we funded. CPA has funded part of the renovations. They're looking to apply for more. The sub bids and general bids have been, sub bids are back, general bids are due soon. Once they get a good idea of the money, excuse me, they will put in a revised application. We said it didn't need to be a whole application. It can just refer to the first one to be not revised, I'm sorry, amended. One of the things we had asked them for before was a written maintenance plan, and they have one written up, and they have to submit to us.
Angela, please get off this meeting unless you're interested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carlton. Okay, the Hanson's Farm,
Yeah.
we had our, it says, we talked about a walkthrough. It was more of a ride through because Bob Hanson took us on a nice tour with the whole farm in his hay wagon. It's very interesting, but okay, but back to this. Hanson's Farm was, we talked about the walkthrough today, arranged by the Open Space Committee. Hanson's, they had submitted their eligibility form. We talked about the next steps as we see them, how to go about getting the appraisal. We talked about grant agreements and award letters. Documents CPC is revising it, excuse me, updating that might require the town managers or town attorney's approval. So it's a good meeting, lasted just more than an hour. So that was that. I have no other announcements right now. So moving on to citizens open forum. Do we have any citizens here that would like to speak? Okay, hearing on, moving on to approval of minutes from the August 25th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look at them?
I have just a quick question. You had said to me at one point somewhere that you had a couple of additions, so,
Yep, they were put in.
okay, that's all I was checking for.
And we added a little more detail to a couple of things. Okay.
Motion to accept. I move to accept.
Okay. Carlton, motion, do we have a second?
I second, Kevin.
Okay, any discussion? Here, not, Josh for a roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Bill. Bill, you have to unmute yourself.
When you're,
Abstain.
Thank
I
you.
wasn't at the meeting on the 25th.
Okay,
Kevin,
Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
great, thank you. Review of financial reports, there, we have no August 31st report. There's still, the finance department is still working on closing out one fiscal year and opening the new fiscal year. So the latest reports we have is what we already looked at last month for June 30th. One of the things from the August meeting, it was questioned the $135,000 left in the McElwain School line item. What that was, it was the open space recreation portion of it. If you recall from McElwain School, the funding was taken from three sources: housing, historical preservation, and open space recreation. The open space and recreation portion is $135,000. That hasn't been submitted for yet. It will be at some point when they get to that part of the project. But as of right now, the developers haven't asked for that. So that's why it still shows a balance. I also had received the Department of Revenue forms. There's a CP1, CP2, and CP3 that we sent out for you folks for your just perusal on it. The forms that the state requires them annually. So those have been submitted. The deadline, I believe, was the 15th of September. They were submitted the week before, well in advance. So you can look at those. There is one mistake that I saw, and that's on, I think it's CP3 form. It shows Now I can't find it. It shows for the World War II memorial improvements, that should be World War I memorial. So we just have to have that updated. So if you just want to take a chance, take a few minutes to look at those at some point. They're kind of straightforward. It's just start and balance how much was collected for tax money, the CPA surcharge, what was matched by the state. So that's all. That's all there.
Thanks for getting these. That's very useful to see what they're sending to the state, because that shows up on the coalition website.
Okay.
I did have a quick question on that.
Sure.
So when it says community preservation surcharge report, what is it? What is it? This report actually like when it says surcharge? What exactly does that mean for surcharge?
Every taxpayer every time we pay our taxes, 2% of the appraised value of your land, your house, your land, the building, what you pay your real estate taxes on, 2% of that is a surcharge, and it goes for community preservation. When the
And it's
town
not-
voted in the Community
Mhm.
Preservation Act back in, I want to say 2007, but don't overly quote me on that, but I think it was 2007. It could be voted on between, I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, 2% and 5% for a surcharge.
1 to 3% surcharge, and the surcharge applies only to the anything up to 100,000 is not surcharged. So it's over 100,000 valuation that gets surcharged.
Good, thank you for that, Carlton.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
sure.
And that's the town's contribution to the Community Preservation Act. And the
Mhm.
other one is and so on this CP1, it shows that we collected $726,000 in surcharges for fiscal year 21. And there were some abatements and exemptions of 4,000. So the total amount turned out to be $21,500 is what we received for Community Preservation Act activities from the town.
If you look, that's right, if you look at CP2, the next sheet, if you put them in order, item number 4 under revenue talks about distributions from the state trust fund. That's how much we got as the matching amount from the state. Which, by the way, I know I had something else for comments, and of course I didn't jot it down, but it'll fit right in here too, is the state coalition, the Community Preservation Coalition. I'm not sure how many of you are signed up, subscribed to it. I know I sound like a broken record encouraging people to subscribe to their newsletters. They just sent out, and they're forecasting that what we'll get this year, fiscal 22, will be way significantly increased. I want to say they said like 32%.
32.3% of your, so
Yeah.
basically you multiply the 722 times 32.3%, and that'll be the state match. On the second page of CP2, you'll see the new revenue sources, collections from community, and then distributions from the state trust fund. That we received 197,500 from the state last year. And then we had, because we invest that money, we had earnings of 1,900. And so our revenues for last year, fiscal year, was $900,022 and some change.
Oh, I see. Right. So for 2021, which is what this report is for, it's
Right.
it's 20%, which is that 197 $500
Yeah,
from the state match.
right.
And then
That's
there's yeah, go ahead.
no,
Oh,
that's real money received from the state. 197 is the real money.
That's what the state received from our
That's
town.
what, that's what the
Well,
town of
that's what-
Bridgewater received from the state.
Right, Kevin, the
Okay,
state.
yeah.
The state money comes from every transaction at the registry of deeds across the state. Every transaction, there's our added fee associated with it. That comes back to, it goes to the state, big pot for community preservation, then that goes back to the cities and towns.
So next year it'll be 32%. So that'll be a significant, larger amount of money for the matching funds from the state for FY22, right?
Mhm.
That's
Right.
good. Very good.
Yep.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
it probably will be the revenue. They haven't finalized it. They've got 2 more months of revenue to enter into it. But the projection is that they're going to meet or possibly exceed the estimates that the state would get from the into the trust fund. And so we get 32.3% of whatever our income is.
Right,
Which is not likely to go down.
No.
Unlikely at this point, yeah.
Yeah.
right. It has,
So-
over the years, Bill, it has fluctuated. When CPC first started in Bridgewater, it was 100% match. Then as registries of deeds, real estate market went down. Plus more cities and towns adopted the Community Preservation Act. The percentage has gone way down.
Yes.
But last year, the year before, it was voted that the registries of deeds would increase their fees, which in turn brought more back to the communities.
Interesting.
Okay,
I
I
just,
just
I
want to
just,
point out, oh, go ahead, Kevin.
oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I
No,
just,
go ahead.
I was just doing the math just to kind of, just to have a little fun. But if it's gonna be at 32%, assuming that we have the same collections, around that 722,000 or so, we're looking at 230,000 for the distributions from the state for next year. Just to throw that out
Yes.
there.
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you, Kevin, because that's what is about the amount that I estimated too.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's all good. That's exciting. That's great.
Yep. One thing on the CP3 that I would like to point out, if you look at the 2012, there was 1.8 million for the Calthrop property. That was turned back to the town because that purchase never took place. So the town turned it back to community preservation. So it shows that it was an award. However, the money was never actually spent.
But
What-
I found this sheet very helpful. The expenditures from 2007 on, very important.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wish they could correct that Calthrop thing because it makes the numbers look a little funny, but
Yeah,
when you look at that, $14 million have been raised and appropriated
Wow.
by the town. That's appropriated, okay? And we still have about 2 to 3 million in the bank. So
Mm.
we've done well.
Mhm.
And the other thing I will say is we have established with the town manager that we would have a review in November of the, because that's November 15th when everything kind of closes down. So we will review with the finance director and maybe the town manager to make an estimate for the next year's budget as to what we want. So the 230,000 that Kevin just mentioned, we can put that all in as appropriation or not. But the other thing we want to do is we can do a mid-year correction because I think we only assigned like what was 100, we had 700,000 last year, and I think we
Right,
only,
we
budgeted-
lowballed it for,
yeah, we lowballed it by 20 or 30%. So we'll, in November, we will talk about that.
Mhm.
And hopefully give direction to the town and what we would like to be done, like increase the appropriation out of that account and spread it out, whatever. Enough.
Right.
So,
good.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. That's a great plan.
Yep, any other discussion on the budget
just a quick-
finance reports?
Just a quick question, just to touch on that Calrup purchase. If I'm
Calthrop.
saying that. Calthrop.
Calthrop.
Thank you. Yes. That Calthrop purchase that was from 2012, like we were just mentioning, for that 1,800,825,000. Did that go back into the 2021 budget, or was that was that bounced back a while ago?
Right, it got put back quite a while ago. And I was actually just reading something today on the Murray Needs Farm, which was, the purchase was similar to what we're going to talk about for Hanson's Farm. And it noted that the purchase for the money turned back from the Calthrop property project helped fund their Murray Needs Farm. So the money was put to use soon. Also, money that was turned back was 2013 Bridgewater Ironworks Park restoration. The majority of that, if not all of it, was for the stone building down there at the Stanley Ironworks Park. There's a lot of problems with that. I wish Harry were here to explain more. He was heavily involved with it. But it has to be a preservationist mason or contractor. The person started the work, never came back. CPC tried contacting him many times. Couldn't get a hold of him. Finally just canceled the project and took the money back. I would like to still see something done. I think the building might be beyond repair now, but it is a historic building. And if something could be done again, it's something for us to look at, or the town to look at.
yeah, the
Bill, do you
west,
have a question?
Whoa.
sorry. Gina?
No, I thought Bill was starting to say something, and then you were starting.
I was groaning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now Carlton, what were you saying?
No,
I was in shock too, so don't worry.
Everybody should know, because I said it at a couple meetings ago, but the west peak of the roof collapsed on June 21st. So we only have one standing high wall, and the other ones are standing, the lower walls are standing. And I think the reason the east wall has stood up is because there's a chimney that's been in place there. And I think that's providing the support for it right now. But anyway, it's something to, maybe I think the Nakatasa Trails type stuff that's trying to develop, there was hope that that would become a waypoint and we could restore that building and have it become a waypoint in whatever museum, whatever. But I don't know where that's going to go.
Right.
My gut feeling, my gut feeling is I think the contractor that was working on this, I think what happened was he probably thought it, whoever was working on it probably thought it was a lost cause, and they just didn't want to do it.
No, he was using the wrong concrete. For those historic buildings, you have to use a specific concrete, and he was just using today's concrete, and that doesn't meet the requirements. And I think you may be right that he just saw it as not effective. I don't know, but he never communicated.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I may
Okay.
be misremembering this, but I believe that building is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, structures in the town of Bridgewater. It's certainly 18th century. It could be 17th century. I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah.
David Moore was very interested in working on that project 20 years ago.
Mhm. I would like to see something done on that, plus on Stiles and Hart on Broad Street. There's part of an old brick structure too, that I would like to see that restored.
Where is that again, Gina?
It's Stiles and Hart on
Yep.
Broad Street,
Oh, Broad. Oh, yeah.
right? The Stiles and Hart, when you first go in the entrance opposite the cleaners, you go in a ways. Right now it's all hidden by the trees, but when the leaves fall, you can see it clear. I believe it's part of the fairgrounds, the original fairgrounds that were there.
Mm,
So I'd
Yeah.
like to see something done there.
yeah, absolutely.
Any,
I think they are. I wish Harry were here because he could speak that he's a steward. But I keep hearing from the town manager every once in a while that they're working on some kind of project plan to bring that park into full service. But I don't know what the plans are really.
right, yeah, I haven't heard either. Okay, any more discussion on the finance papers?
So just to recap, on CP2 here, I think it's CP2. The total fund balance, June 30th, 2021, that 2,400,000.
Yeah.
That is accounting for the funds that we got back from the Calthrop purchase, as well as from the
Fireworks.
Ironworks. Thank you.
Right, yeah, those were returned, well, the Calthrop was returned before the Marine Needs Farm, so that was returned before 2015. And my guess is the Ironworks were returned about the same time.
This is the total fund balance as of June 30th, 2021.
Correct.
So we have basically 2.4 million and more to come in November.
Right.
That, on that balance, that includes payments that are due. The payments have been subtracted out and that's the final.
That's, as far as I know, that is the balance, appropriations, payments out, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, I thought I saw somewhere, and it should say it here what we started with. For fiscal
I did have
20.
one. I'm
Sure,
sorry, I don't mean, I
shoot.
just had one
No, go ahead.
quick question.
Mhm.
On CP2, when I'm looking under expenditures, and then it lists all four, open space, historical, and then community housing. It
Mhm.
says, so the expenditures are for 2021.
Right.
That's what we had,
Fiscal-
that's what we spent.
Right.
Correct.
Okay,
That's what,
and then
that's what hit the books.
that's what hit the books. And then the expenditure, when it says expenditures for debt service, that means that's something different than what we
Yes.
spent.
We bonded several things, okay? So we have 38,900 still to pay off on two things that we have to pay off. And then the historic resources is to pay off for the Academy building. And, oh, I know what, the 38,000 is for the, I don't want to say it's the Marine Needs Farm because we paid cash for that, but it's another element that we have. So those are expenses that were spent, and we still have ongoing expenses there until we pay off the bonds.
Is that the Keith Homestead
It could be.
open space?
The other form that finance sends includes what it is, and I just can't, I have a long day and I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I believe
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And we spent 20,000 in FY21, 21,000 basically for administrative support. That's for Joss. It was for the contract with Golson, et cetera, that kind of thing. And so the state tracks all of that. And then the coalition actually gets these forms too And then they update their databases.
Mhm.
Understood. Thank you. I was just a little confused about the debt service and then the expenditures.
Yeah, the debt services are things that were bonded. It was regular votes, community preservation, recommendations by us and approval by the town council. Say like the pickleball courts or fencing or things like that. The academy building, and I think that Keith Homestead had to be bonded because of the amounts of them. So that gets listed as a debt service, not just an expenditure.
And so if we had zero income, we would still owe that money until it was paid off.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yep, it's like a delayed, debt. kind
It's
of
a
thing.
borrow. We borrowed the money and we need to pay. It's like you.
Right, it's like your
We
car
borrow
loan.
the money and we pay it off.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Any other discussion on the finance sheets?
I see Harry's joined our meeting. That's great. Hey, Harry.
How you doing?
Hey,
I was on
Harry.
the phone with my mother down in Florida.
That's okay.
Yep. Your
Good to
mother's
have you
more
on. Good to
important.
have you on, Harry.
Thank you.
Harry, we're just quickly before we're reviewing our finance forms, the ones that got submitted to the state. And I was saying that a couple of projects that it lists on it, the projects go back to on the CP3 form back to 2007. And I was saying that the ironworks restoration, some of that got turned back to the state. That was basically not the state, I'm sorry, back to the community preservation. I'm sorry, thank you for the correction. That was basically the guy just never finished the job, correct?
That was because I fired him.
Oh, well, I guess that's why he didn't finish the job. Makes sense.
Was it really that bad, Harry, that drastic
When you
measures?
come
needed
to
to
a
be-
job and you charge for all the tools that you bring with you, yes. And then he was coming from Rhode Island, so he'd charge all the way up and he'd charge 2 trucks and then he'd charge all the way back, and I got fed up with it.
Oh,
And
Good to know.
I asked for everything to be put, what he did. And he gave it to I'm not going to say who he gave it to, but he gave it to somebody, right? And I looked at it and said, nope. So I closed it, and he wasn't getting anything done anyway, so.
Oh, so this is a really good case for why we need award letters, so that we have very specific scope for these people and can address this kind of thing. So
Right.
thanks, Harry.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, good. And Harry, oh, I guess we'll get to it further down, but don't run away, Harry.
I
Okay,
shut my
old
phone off, so I'm safe.
okay. Old business project updates. Central Square Congregational Church deed restriction and grant agreement. Barbara, would you like to fill us in on?
Okay, well, the meeting last month, Brian, I reported that Brian Pfeiffer had resigned from working any further with the church on the deed restriction. And I gave the reasons why he bowed out. Most importantly, I guess, it was all taken too long. He had other customers lined up that he had to work with, and a couple of other reasons. So anyways, I got back to Gina and she linked me up with Jennifer Golson or Jennifer Burke?
Golson.
Golson. And she referred me to, it's called initial PAL. It stands for Public Archaeology Laboratory, and it's in Rhode Island. So there was a woman assigned to the Central Square Church. Her name was Virginia Adams. We've had a couple of phone calls, and I even talked to her an hour before the meeting tonight to update you with the latest. She, rather than repeat a lot of the work that Brian had done, she asked me to be in touch with him and ask him if he had a lot of notes in his report that obstructed the report. So she wanted to know if he could put put that into a different format so that she could read the whole report. And then she also asked me if I would contact him and ask permission for her to work with Brian or telephone him, because they both know each other. So in immediate response to my email, Brian sent me an email back and said that he's resigned from working at all at Central Square Church. We could not use any of his files. And unless he had put a lot of work into it. And I actually had to pick up today a certified letter from him, which is the same as the email he sent me, but he felt he better send it in a certified letter format. And he also sent one to his attorney saying that Virginia Adams from PAL in Rhode Island was able to use his work if we paid for his work. And he figured it out with the amount of hours that he put into it, and that we owe him $3,937.50. So I called Virginia this afternoon and I read the letter to her, the certified letter that I picked up. And she said, that's about what it would cost, and why have her repeat the same amount, the same work, when Brian's work is excellent. And it would only delay everything months, a couple of more months. So I'm bringing it to the meeting tonight. I asked Virginia, what would her fee be on top of the $3,937 that we would have to give to Brian? Remember, he returned the $1,000 retainer fee. So it just goes up and up. In addition to the $3,900, she is charging another $4,000 to $5,000 to complete the deed restriction. So I added all that up. That's $8,937.50. So,
Ouch.
yes, ouch, because now this is $3,000 more than what we were going to pay Brian Pfeiffer for his work. I'm not going to get that other call on the other line. So what do we do? I mean, I told her I would talk to her tomorrow. Now the deed restriction is up to $8,937.50.
Okay, so Brian would charge 3,400 and something.
$3,937, $3,937.50 to use all the work he did. He would
So
send
we're-
all the files to Ginny.
Basically, he's saying that for that amount of money, he will send all information in writing to PAL.
Yes. He would release all of that information.
And Pal
And-
said it would cost that much roughly for them to do it.
No, in addition to that, in addition to the $3,900, it's another $4,000 to $5,000.
Right, but for,
Right.
if you didn't get what Brian had done already, then it would roughly cost the 3,900 for Pal to do all the research themselves.
Yes, that's the way she explained it to me, because I did make the comment to her, well, that is about $3,000 more than what Brian was charging us. And she said,
Okay.
yes.
Wow. So
So what do we do?
Didn't we
I
have a
think
lot
we
of
need-
notes? Sorry.
I-
didn't we-
go ahead, Bill.
No, I was just going to say, didn't we have a lot of notes that Brian had submitted somewhere at one point about the church?
Yes, that was the first report he did.
Yes, is that accessible? Is that ours to be used?
Yes, it is. We
Okay.
paid for that. Yes, we did.
Okay.
And
But-
Is anything in there, can that be used for what Pal's looking for?
Well, I asked her that question also, because I told her he did a complete study of the church and its structural, everything about it. We had to do that to submit with the application originally.
Right.
And so she said that now he's focusing on the parts that the Massachusetts Historical Commission would be interested in. And that's why he took more photos and wrote more reports
Which
to
is
add
better.
up to additional 3,900 more dollars.
So I'm trying to think, and we, CPC provided you with the funds for this deed restriction, correct?
That's correct.
So
I
that's town
forgot the
money.
exact amount, something like
Yeah.
$6,000.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
what-
say 6,500, but I'd
Yeah.
have to look back.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is it's town money. And he's accessed almost all of that, correct? Because you
I
paid
don't
him.
understand the question.
You've paid him, he's invoiced you for some percentage of that 6,500, right?
Yes, but he released us from that.
I
Because he,
understand that. So the whatever money you've paid him, any of those products that we use are essentially paid for by the town. Okay?
yes,
And the question becomes then, what rights do we have to his files, et cetera? And so I'm going to suggest that we need to have a call with the town attorney to talk about what your options are, because we have provided money for it. And it's town taxpayer money to support your project. And now he's asking for more money to support your project. And I think we need a legal opinion on it.
but
Right,
Carlton,
just- we didn't,
you-
we
we
didn't
never,
actually pay him anything. We paid,
Right.
the church paid, well, the town hasn't paid anything because it was going to reimburse the
The
church.
town
But the church-
gave the money. The town gave the money. So it's town money that was given to the church to spend.
No,
That's
it was
just-
reimbursable.
but we have not
Whatever.
spent the money.
Right, nothing's been spent. All that was paid to Brian Pfeiffer was $1,000 retainer, which he has returned to the church.
Oh,
Correct.
okay, I misunderstood. I thought you had already, he invoiced you and asked for money. So
No.
he's asking for $3,900 to pay for his work.
Yes, which we have not paid for anything for his work yet. If we
Okay.
want to use his work.
Well, I understand where he's coming from. Yeah, you know, he needs to be paid for and recognized for the work he did. So I don't think we need a legal opinion on it now.
Right.
Did he do good work or what, are you happy with what he did?
Yes, excellent work.
So
Okay.
here's,
Hmm.
I think the church will decide if they want to pay the 3,900. And then when you pay that, you get the documents, then you're going to get a bid price from PAL. And if you pay 3,900, that leaves out of the 6,500, what, 4,500 or something like that. No, 3,500,
2,500.
2,500. And so if you need an additional 2,500, I think it would be appropriate to request us for an additional to cover the rest of the cost, since we had made a commitment to you to do that. So I think we have to work through that steps. And I don't have full recollection of exactly what I said, so I'm going to try to say it again. If you pay from the money that we already appropriated to you, that leaves about $2,500 over, then you need to get a bid or price from PAL using that other data. So if that's 4,000, then you need to request another $1,500 from us, something like that. Am I making sense?
Yes,
Mhm.
I understand that.
Yeah, whatever funds are left over, you would just request from us to
Okay.
fill in the hole, I guess.
Okay, and the last time we did this, when you when you promised us 6,500 for the deed restriction, I got some kind of a letter Gina wrote to me that I could show to the church, saying that, you know, they would be reimbursed after we paid the money up front. So they may ask me to do that again.
Okay, let's think this over through a little bit. If you sent Brian's request to Gina, and then we ran through it and said to our finance department, please pay this amount for the work done, and you would get the check from the town to cover that cost. Then we go get the bid from the other. So I think we can get around this because you don't have the cash in hand. You have to basically invoice the Bridgewater for it. So I would suggest that you put together an invoice. And if I'm wrong here, somebody speak up, but I would suggest.
Okay,
that
we
you-
could Carlton, for the amount to Brian, because technically we don't have a contract with him anymore. So we could do that. We could pay that directly from the town, but as far as with this PAL, the church, I'm not sure, Barbara, have you entered into a contract with them, or are they requiring you to?
No, that's the next question I was going to ask you. Shouldn't I get a contract from PAL?
Absolutely.
I would think so.
Okay,
And
all
the
right.
contract, Carlton, back to your question or for clarification, the town cannot pay PAL directly because the contract with PAL will be with the church. If the contract were with the town, then it has to go to the procurement laws. So the contract was, as with Brian Pfeiffer, was being done between the church and Brian. And it would be the same here because otherwise it would have to go out to bid for
Right.
the state procurement laws.
But the church invoices us for the money.
Yes.
Right,
That's how they access it, right?
right. After they pay it, because we're reimbursing them, we can't pay directly to PAL.
No, but we can pay the church.
Right, so the church has to pay it, then we have to
No,
reimburse them.
I'm going to ask for the town to change that policy and to cut a check. I think we should, if we need a motion, I'll try to make it. I think the town needs to cut a check based on the invoice from Brian, needs to cut a check to the church. And the church can then pay Brian.
Well, we can pay Brian directly.
We can't,
because
we don't have a contract, we don't have a contract with him.
Right, and we don't have a contract with him, no contract was entered into, well, it was, but then it got canceled. So therefore, he's just billing us, it's under any procurement levels. So I can check with Tony Salmonte, but I would think that we can pay Brian directly,
So we have.
because it's
okay.
not through a contract.
Well, that's fine. I want the money to get out there if the church wants to move forward.
Mhm.
So I agree with you. My consensus is, from my head, is ask Tony, which is the right thing to do. Pay direct to Brian as an invoice, or pay it to the church because they had the contract with him. And they were going to ask us for the money at some point.
Mhm.
So let's clarify that as quickly as we can this week, if possible. And then we can
Okay.
help the church move forward. And the other things I said, I hope everybody would agree to it, but the other things I said is I think you need to get a bid package, scope of services and costs for how they're going to proceed, assuming they get all of Brian's information. Then you'll know what the cost is, and then you'll know how much you need to come back to us for our committee vote.
It,
And I hope
it seems a little convoluted to have us pay the contractor directly. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but I mean, this is, I guess, the fine details, whether it's legal or not, but but I imagine
want
it's more
legal.
convoluted and just have, I would imagine just having the church, run the numbers, and then we just double check them, and then we just pay the church. I would imagine that'd be easier.
Another Kevin brought up a memory for me. When we were dealing with the Old Bridgewater Historical Society and paying them extra, we were going to pay the vendor directly. And the vendor was not on the town's vendor list. So we had to go through a bunch of hoops to get that person and company onto the vendor list so that we could pay directly. So if Pfeiffer's on the vendor list, it may be straightforward. But let's let Tony, our finance director, solve this issue.
With
Right, I know
regards-
Brian. Go ahead, Jean, I'm sorry.
With regards to the documents that you are paying for, whether at the church or CPC, those documents should come to CPC or the church, in my estimation, not go directly to PAL.
Mhm.
And then they can
Yeah.
be forwarded to PAL because PAL didn't pay for them.
Good
You'll
point.
release them to them,
Mhm. Good point, Jean.
but
Thank
then
you.
you have a copy of them, Barbara.
Okay,
Good
I
point.
think that's,
I agree. I agree.
Good point.
I've got just a couple of things to say. One is, where is the returned retainer fee check at this point? That
It
Brian,
was sent by the church, so it was returned to the church. The town didn't pay anything towards that.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. And my second point is, I think it's important for Barbara or whoever has access to those original papers or reports that Brian Pfeiffer did several years ago, describing the church in detail. I remember looking at those a while back, and we've already paid for those. That those should be sent haste post haste to PAL, because I think they're going to find out a lot of the research has already been done, and it's in those original documents. Now, I'm not talking about the documents that Brian will not release, but I'm talking about the others. Because
there's also the article in the,
maybe we can get this cost for $4,000 to $5,000 down a little bit for the church, if they see how much has already been done.
isn't there also an article written up in,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
So did the church pay Brian or anybody for the photographs, et cetera?
yes. We
Right,
paid
so-
him $5,500.
Ooh.
His,
To Brian?
those
or
are his original photographs, and if
Yes.
he was actually writing the restriction, he took more, and that would be included in what he wants us to pay him now for.
Yes, that's right. That's additional. I may have already sent his original paperwork to PAL. I will check with Virginia tomorrow. But that's not what she was requesting. She was requesting the new packet from him.
Right.
Mhm. Right,
The
and I
new
would
deal.
ask her for a contract too.
I
to
will,
enter into her contract.
I will. Well,
But-
she
but-
wished me good luck tonight, so it seems like I'm having good luck.
I think we need to assume that the funds that Brian is asking for will be sent to him one way or the other. So that you guys then have ownership and the town has ownership of those properties because it's our money. Those
Well-
documents.
If the town sent him a check to Brian, I mean, wouldn't the town then be buying his files and he would send them to the town? I would think maybe
True.
somehow arrangements should be made. I mean, that's fine with me if you want all the files, but should arrangements be made to send the files to the church and then I send them to everyone? How should I handle that?
Does
Let's-
the church have the funds to pay the 3,900? And we reimburse you? We could reimburse you right away. And that way the files would get sent to you. The church would own the files, not the town. I can't see the town needing to, I don't know, my thought is I can't see the town needing to own all those files, but maybe
Oh,
it does. I don't know.
Let's,
Is
Go
it
ahead.
quicker for the town to send a check? Because I think asking the church to send a check, that could take a couple of weeks.
and
Yeah, you know,
Right.
let me talk to Tony tomorrow.
This sounds like a mess.
it
It,
is.
Sounds like,
Yeah.
Let's,
wow.
I see Gordon.
Yeah, I just want to point out that I already sent these files that you're talking about. I already sent them into
PAL?
PAL.
Oh, I thought you did. Yeah, I thought you did. I remember that now. It was
Those are
only
the
a week
original,
ago.
the original files, right?
Yes,
March
Yes.
22nd, 2019.
Okay, that's good to understand. So that's done. We're talking about new work And I think we should just have Gina give the problem, and if you need to get on the line with Gina, Barbara, or Gordon, either one, let's get an appointment with Tony and try to have him and maybe town manager and maybe Jennifer Burke, I don't know, help us with the path forward, the cleanest path forward we can find. And then hopefully we
Right.
can try, if we have to have a special meeting, I don't think we would need to, we can do that. But I suggest that we think we know what we need to do, but I think we should have Gina act on it, get the information as quickly as she can.
I'll try Tony tomorrow, or if I can't get him, I'll talk to Michael.
This is one of those important and urgent things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Barbara,
Yeah.
just something just to throw in a comment really quick, but the thing that just comes to mind, just to my 2 cents as well, but the contractor sent, you mentioned that he sent a letter to his attorney as well as a certified letter to
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
So what that kind of screams at me like it's really a relationship between you and the contractor. You know, for us to get involved, I think would complicate things. That's why I'm of the opinion. I'm not an attorney, of course, but I think it's a lot easier to reimburse the church as opposed to paying the contractor directly, because it's really between you and the contractor. Just, I'm sorry you had to go through that. That sounds like a headache to go through.
There's a solution. We just have
But
to
it
find
seems to me that Brian Pfeiffer is just interested in getting paid for these files, no matter who pays, whether
Yeah,
it's.
he doesn't, right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. All the notes are green at the end of the day, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm sorry you guys are going through this.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, and once the deed restriction is done, we can do the grant agreement. Carlton has drafted one, or Jennifer Golson put one together that we passed to the town manager and town attorney for their comments. Their comments have come back. Carlton has updated the grant agreement with the comments. So when I was going to say if, but I don't want to say if, when the deed restriction is done, we can issue the grant agreement.
Last month you said that you would send us a copy, the tentative
Oh,
copy.
Did I not send that?
Agreement. No, I never got.
Okay, I will. I'll send it.
Okay,
this week
thanks,
for you.
Gina.
Okay,
And
sorry about that.
one last thing to bring up. Last month, Gordon had brought up the subject of the deed restriction now will be on phase 1 of the church.
Oh,
And
wait.
then, yes, and
Go
then we
ahead.
still
Yeah,
phase
I'm
2 and
sorry.
3. Phase 2 and 3. So if I guess if anything happened and we were denied phase 2 and 3, then we still have the standing deed restriction on the church for phase 1.
Right, the deed restriction, and that was one of the things we talked to with Michael Dutton. I'm sorry, I had it under my grant agreement things. We had the question last month, does the deed restriction impact solely the CPA funded steeple work or the whole building? Your deed restriction will impact the whole building.
Okay, good.
Does that answer what
Yes.
your
Yes, it
question
does.
now? Okay, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
meant to say that before.
Gordon, do you have any comment to make? Is that okay?
Well, I understood. We understood last week, our last meeting, that it would cover the whole church. There was no question on that. But my
Mhm.
point was that the town has not planned for giving us phase 2 and 3. And if we don't get phase 2 and 3, and we have some work we have to do in the church, replacing the windows, we'll be obligated to meet the deed restriction, which we might not be able to do. And I took it, you were going to discuss that with people as far as how is the church going to get out of that bind?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were just asking if it impacted just the CPA funded steeple or the whole church. Let me follow up on that. To see, so if I understand right, you're questioning if it impacts the whole church and the town CPA doesn't fund phase 2 and 3, how do you do the work without keeping to the deed restriction?
It
Correct.
equals the
Okay.
equals the deed restriction requirements.
Right.
How do you then meet, or they have to meet the standards for historic preservation at that point?
Yes.
And the
Mhm.
question
Okay.
becomes, how they fund it.
Okay, let me ask Michael that. Okay,
I'm sorry, I thought that you were just asking, does the deed require only the steeple or the whole building? And that's what we had asked Michael.
But doesn't
That's what I thought, too.
doesn't it make sense though, in terms of putting the church at that obligation?
Well,
Mhm.
you're making a good point, because I'm not sure, once we have the deed restriction and the Historic District Commission holds it, then I'm not sure the obligation type stuff that follows on that from the town's perspective. Are we committing to fund at least some part of the rest of the project? I don't know.
Well,
Maybe-
it's still like we on the siding right now. Without knowing we're going to get the phase 3 for the siding of the church, we can't afford to take the siding off the steeple, because we'll have a bare steeple when the rest of the church has got siding on it. So that's another question. I want to be sure people realize we're leaving the siding up there because we don't have any commitment on phase 3.
I
Right,
have
we
one-
can't commit right now to a phase 2 or phase 3 without an application,
And-
the proceedings to. And it's not CPC that commits to it. We make the recommendation, as you know, to the town council, and they're the ones that actually approve or unapprove it.
Barbara, I have one last question about Brian Pfeiffer's report or notes that we're going to be paying $3,900 for. And Pal had suggested that he get those in final form. Do you think Pal means that he's going to do some rewriting of these notes, or is he just going to submit the notes themselves for $3,900?
I think I'm going to suggest to Pal to have him submit the notes in the format they're in now, and also in a different format, so that his notes that he wrote all over it won't obscure what we're supposed to read. I'm going to ask him to submit it in 2 formats.
Do you really think that a report in this form is worth $3,900, or do you think we ought to just get an estimate from Pal for the whole project? I'm just thinking out loud here.
It's a good point. It's a good point. It's
Well,
a valid
yes.
point too.
I asked that question today too, and she said that she knows Brian Pfeiffer very well and she knows his work. And for her to repeat his work, it would just, take a long time. We would lose all that time that he's already done it.
Okay, well, that's an important point.
Right, and they would receive the writing, the deed writing, and the submission to Mass Historic. They would receive that document to work from, correct?
Yes.
That's the critical piece. A lot of the writing's been done. There's a few things missing. So that plus his notes are what need to go over.
Yes, and he has a lot of new photos too. And she
photos.
wanted it in the format so that she could put her own notes in, like he did. What is that, Word document?
Probably Word or a writable PDF.
Yeah.
Yep, but it's an editable, whatever it is, it has to be an editable document.
Yes, an editable document.
How extensive is this deed restriction? I mean, how many pages are we talking about here? Are we talking about 50 pages, 30 pages, 10 pages, 5 pages? I mean, I know there's all this background, but I mean, this keeps coming up. I know this was an issue with the Unitarian Church and so forth and so on. It would seem to me that we need a list of individuals who are able to generate these deed restrictions for future applicants who've applied for CPC funding. And there's a new person at Mass Historic, Jennifer Doherty, who replaced Chris Skelly within the last month. And we ought to ask her if the MHC can provide a list of companies, or lawyers, or groups that prepare these deed restrictions. I think that would be important to pass along to people like Barbara and others who are going to be seeking deed restrictions, because people are just kind of working in the dark here, I think. Jennifer was a good source to come up with PAL. That was a good, but I think we need a list of people who work on these deed restrictions. And
May I make a suggestion, Bill?
yeah,
Since you raised it, could you take the action to call them and ask?
I will ask Jennifer Doherty.
Thank you.
Be glad to do
I
that.
agree with your comment.
Mhm.
They providing a list of deed restriction experts.
Good.
So we're going to get through this,
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
sooner.
So
Okay,
are we leaving this that the church will send a check to Brian for 3,900?
will-
And then I submit the invoice to CPC for reimbursement?
We're leaving it with Gina to talk to the finance director and find the correct path forward.
Okay,
That
Mhm.
might be one of the two paths. That
Okay.
path and the other one's direct payment.
okay, good.
right.
And we know that time is of the essence to move things along. So I imagine we'll patch it through. I can't speak for Gina, but I imagine Gina would patch it through as soon as possible
Mhm.
I know
just
where
to
she
get an
lives.
answer.
I know where she lives. We'll get it done.
Yeah.
He lives too.
Yeah, as long as I don't delete the document by mistake like I did this weekend. Josh, that's why you got everything so late. I accidentally deleted it. And I had to trust my memory of what was on it to begin with. Okay, anything else on the church deed restriction or grant agreement?
We have, and you have the other, Gordon, go ahead.
Just one point I recall, in writing up this deed restriction, it was referenced on some church, I believe in the Cape. The document was approximately 40 pages long. And a big part of it was also the church description of the land and the property, which uses up quite a bit of the information. And that's where we have our biggest problem, because our description is we have a problem with it. So just for
Well,
those
the
who don't know how long.
The critical thing that I heard that Brian stepped away because he didn't have an official legal generated description of the property. The work I did didn't count in his mind. So, because I sent everything that we could find with our deed restriction, our deed researcher, Bob Wood, to you guys and supposedly to him, but apparently he never notified you. That's where I'm having a problem. He never notified you that that was not fully acceptable. That's an
Mhm.
issue I have. But let's move to the other things and get this project moving.
Okay, good. One last thing while we're on the church. It's not actually part of the project update, but I just don't want to forget about it. Barbara and Gordon had mentioned last month about their 200th celebration coming up on
Thank you, Gina.
October 16th. I know
Yes,
by the time I get to the end, I'll forget it.
I'm actually filling out the invitation to you this evening, and they'll be in the mail on Friday. I've had
Oh.
Terry Reynolds and I split out a couple hundred of invitations to address and mail out. So we would like to invite everyone on the CPC committee to attend our function, which is going to be on Saturday, I think. Oh, gee, the 16th of November at TJ Smith's in East
November or October?
October.
Oh,
Okay,
October,
that's what I
yeah.
thought.
October, and I think it's October 15th. I just didn't have that in front of me. They're at the kitchen table. And so this will be a choice of 3 meals, and we're asking that if you would like to attend, if you would send a check in for your choice of meal. So I just want you to know that the church is not putting on this big gala function
Right.
when we're asking for CPC money. It's everyone will be contributing for their own meal. So we would
Okay,
love
we-
to have you come.
Will you also take a donation too, if someone wanted to put a donation to the church?
I think that, yes, we would. That would be very nice.
Run away quick.
Okay.
I would hopefully that you have a donation box out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
we could-
we weren't going to. Oh, and then Friday evening, the night before, October, would that be October 14th? We invited Dave Moore to come in, and we're going to have an ice cream social, and he's going to show old photos of the church and around the common area. So he's going to do a slideshow for us on Friday evening. And of course, if you'd like to come to that, that would be wonderful also.
If I might add one suggestion, my neighbor George, who used to be the Globe photographer, still photographs here in town. Just let him know, and I bet you'll get some fantastic photos if he attends. George,
Really?
George
What's-
Reiser,
say it again.
Reiser, R-I-Z-E-R.
Rizer, Riser.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's asked me to let him know when things are going on, so I'll let him know that this date's on the table for that.
Okay. So he's the
like-
town photographer?
No, he's just
No.
on his own. He's retired and he just loves
Oh.
to photograph stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
I actually used to do that. I used to be the photographer for the town newspaper
Wow.
before digital cameras. We used to go up and with my roll of film and develop it and print it, and they'd put the pictures in the paper the next day.
Wow. That's great.
Those are
Yeah.
the best people because they're not going to charge an arm and a leg. They're doing it for fun. So that's the best
Mhm.
type of
Right,
people
and
to
George does. He's a retired
come
Globe
by.
photographer.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll contact him tomorrow.
And I'll let him know also.
Okay, thank you. So that would be the Friday night, whatever that date is, that
The
October
15th.
14th? The 15th? No, I think it's the 14th, isn't it? Friday night?
The 15th is, I just looked, 15th is a Friday, 16th is a Saturday.
Okay.
So what day is it?
It's Friday night at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
That's a ice cream social with David Moore, and the 16th is the
Yes.
dinner at TJ Smith's.
Yes, and I'm just going to tell you that there'll be a little basket. They were charging $1 per person for the ice cream.
Oh, that's fair enough. That's
Isn't
no
it?
problem.
Yep,
Yeah.
sounds good.
I'll bring
Okay.
$2. I'll bring $2.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, anything else on the church? Okay, hearing none. Moving on, pickleball courts. I had a question out to our workers at Park and Rec for a status update. At the last meeting, I had said that the courts had been painted. However, the company painted them wrong. So they needed to be repainted. As of the Park and Rec meeting last week, they hadn't been. Charlie Simons, ground superintendent, was having a hard time getting the company to commit to when they would come back, which in turn would hold off the fencing. But as of this week too, to complicate matters more, so I don't know if the painting has been redone in the last few days or not. I was hoping Charlie or one of his other guys would get back to me before our meeting. But to complicate things more, that whole side of the senior center parking lot is now blocked off because the school, as part of the new school, they're putting that road in. It's going to go out to Bedford Street from the back of the school. that's in the works right now. So that whole section is being worked on. So I
It's
don't know how much
unavailable.
that's going to impact the repainting. If their trucks can get in before the paving is done, the same for the fencing. So that just complicates it. And I know Charlie and those of us on Park and Rec are getting frustrated with the whole project.
Gee, you
Have
want
they
the good or
been
the bad
paid?
news? I'm sorry?
Have they been paid?
Oh, they've been paved. They were
Oh, sure.
painted, but they were painted off.
Yeah, but they were paid.
Oh, paid? No,
Paid, yes.
they weren't paid.
Oh, okay.
I thought you
So-
asked if they were paved, like with the
No,
asphalt.
paid money.
Yeah, no, no, they're withholding payment until the job is done.
Let me
I should never
complicate,
see them.
let me complicate this a little bit more. Town manager at town meeting last night, council meeting last night, indicated when they opened up the ground to work on that roadway, it was not on the proper gravel bed. So they have to do a little bit more work to actually get that street under repair because it was installed improperly. So that creates a little bit more. I don't know how much of a delay that puts in, but the other thing he raised, if I remember correctly, was they're not sure, and they only got down like to the Conant Center or something. And they're not sure if the roadway going out to Bedford actually has the same problem. So stay tuned. There may be a delay in accessing that area even more. Sorry.
And seeing that it's going to be all buses come out of there, I think they better have it right.
I'm with you there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It won't last.
Nope, nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Next.
So that's it on the pickleball courts. McElwain School, as you can see, is being worked on. I think the school looks, the front part of it, all the brick looks absolutely gorgeous. I can't remember it ever looking like that. And I went to school there. But that's in process under upcoming events. I don't know if everybody got the invitation from the developers, or I know I got it in Carlton. Did the rest of you get it as well? CPC members?
To a
An
groundbreaking.
invitation.
Yeah, to the
About
groundbreaking,
what?
but I can forward that on if you didn't get it, but we'll talk about that further down. The grant agreement, Carlton based it on the grant agreement for the church that Jen Golson had written and our town attorney, town manager had commented on. We're just waiting for one answer from the town attorney for the 650,000 payback. I don't like the term
Well,
payback. It sounds
that's a
like there's
slight-
something.
That's a slightly different issue. I had to modify it because it's a grant to a private organization and not a church, and there was church language in that, so I had to modify it. To that point, we have developed it. The most critical thing that I think, and we talked signage when we started the meeting, CPA requires a sign to be put up on projects that indicate that it's partially or fully funded by CPA money. And we had several of those signs, and the town manager found two in the basement of the memorial building. So he said yesterday that he was going to get one installed at that McElwain property post haste. The other one should go up out of the pickleball court as soon as possible. And what's the third thing? Oh, we need a third one, but the church would get a sign when they get under construction, that kind of thing, as well as the memorial building would have to have it. So we're trying to bring that policy back up and make sure the town had, I was afraid they'd toss the signs, but they haven't. So that's good news.
Good. Okay, so that project's moving along.
Rapidly.
Hanson's Farm, we did our walkthrough, ride through today. very, very informative with Bob Hanson. Kevin was there as our open space person, and Carlton and I.
And Eileen, of course.
And right,
Was
Eileen
there.
was there for
Mhm.
open space. Josh, can you throw up that picture? We have our aerial picture of the property that is 61A and looking for the that's what would be involved in the conservation restriction.
This piece is put together by the state and shows the actual farmed land, not the full extent of the property.
Right,
Can you expand it?
right. You can pinch it out yourself to get bigger too. Okay, any place that's marked T46. I guess actually Josh has to scroll it up too. At the top center is that triangle point of North Street. There's two other sections at T46. You can see them there. One is the lighter green, the other one's smaller. I guess there's four sections, T46, there's one at the bottom too. So those are the pieces of property that would be involved in conservation restriction. We have from,
And Gina, could I ask that Josh give me a host so I can show you the actual property lines as best as I can draw them?
mhm,
Oh, it says share my screen. I can't do it. Oh, it needs to come down from, okay, now let me see if this works. So I'm going to show live in Google Earth. Share screen. Okay, Carlton, you can do this.
do you have
Sure.
to made a
There we
co-host?
are. Can you see this?
Nope,
I have a picture on the screen.
No,
no,
Oh,
I
look.
think Josh might have to make you a co-host.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let
Oh,
me know
I
when
thought
you,
he already did that.
Yeah,
go ahead, Josh, if you
You should
can.
be all set.
Yep, you're all set, Colin. Try sharing again.
Technology. Is that picture showing up?
Nope, but we can see you.
your picture.
It's okay, take your time, no worries.
Yeah, I'm struggling here.
Or if you quick shoot it to Josh, he can put it up too.
No, it's a live image.
Oh,
I don't know why it's not sharing. Crap.
okay. I don't know how to share live things.
Well,
What is-
it
Carlton, what is it a picture of? What are you trying to show?
basically, I'm showing the property lines, not just the farmland. I'm trying to show
Okay.
the property lines. So
All right.
everybody has a feeling for what the entire project will encompass.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I know a way to do this. Hang on. Bear with me. Continue talking.
Okay, one of the things we discussed with Michael yesterday was like what steps first, we do have the eligibility form that open space has filled out, Michael Dutton has signed, that was sent out to you. I sent it out separate because I forgot to give it to Josh to send out to you guys, so I quick sent it out the other night. I had a day of forgetting the other day. I think I forget everything.
Gina, I don't think I've seen a copy of that.
Oh, Michael didn't send to you? Okay.
No.
It's
I
the
mean, I
exact
saw
thing that you
the
sent.
one that I sent to him that he then signed and sent to you, but I haven't sent the one that you revised as of yesterday.
That's fine. We decided just to use the first one where Michael had already signed it.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you did it over.
Oh, Carlton has started screen sharing. Here he comes.
Okay, tell me when you see it.
Okay, we got a picture.
You got
We
it.
got it.
Excellent. Okay, so over here
Hey.
where my cursor is Murray Needs Farm that we did before. The green area here is that 2-acre triangle that the Hansons are considering to put under restriction. And then the larger green outline is the external lines of the property that they own that would go into this conservation restriction. Obviously, these areas right here are what you saw in the previous one. That's the farming. Here's a beautiful meadow out here. Incredible meadow. And then there's right about here, there's 14 acres. It's mostly wooded. And the total acreage of the project is 75 acres,
Wow.
encompassing these 4 or 5 parcels. But we're going to talk eligibility, but I wanted you all to see the entire picture of it. There's a pond here. There's a pond here. These are all used to be for watering cattle. Now it's for the irrigations. And they have already done a property survey about this area here, over to here, back up to here, and I think all the way down to here. They've done a property survey. So they've got that all staked already. So, and there are some issues that they will have to deal with at some point. I won't get into the depth of that because the application will have to point that out. But anyway, this is just to give you a feel for the size of the property, 75 acres total. It may, depending on what their decisions are, they may change it a little bit. They may not put this 2-acre piece in there. They may do a couple of other things. Right now, it's a working farm. So there's some things that they have to have access to. The other point that I will say in terms of eligibility, the one thing that you required is some kind of public benefit. And when I asked the question to Bob, what about a walking path? He said, oh, I'm already thinking about that. So he's thinking about a walking path. There's an old, from here where my cursor is back through this area, there's apparently an old trail or something that could be opened up for walking. So I think it's a phenomenal project, and I'll just leave it at that. And I'm going to stop sharing, but that should give you a sense of where it's at.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep,
Hopefully that-
Eileen, do you have anything to add in there?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention is the meeting today, part of the purpose was to introduce the project to a representative of Wildlands Trust, which is interested in working with us on the intricacies of preserving a piece of property. I mean, the Wildlands Trust is a nonprofit that holds open space properties in Plymouth County, a number of pieces in Bridgewater, including the Great River Preserve. I'm sure some of you are familiar with. And they have a lot of expertise. They do a lot of this work. And so we were pleased that they wanted to work with us. Unfortunately, the man who was going to join us today he's been ill and also had a death in his family, so he couldn't come. So we'll probably be having another view of the property for him sometime, because he hadn't met the Hansons before, and we really were hoping that he would get to see all this today. But I think for the rest of us, everybody else went as scheduled. Michael Dutton and Jennifer Burke and Carlton and Gina and me and Kevin, and I think that's it, and 2 of the Hansons. And it was really very informative, as well as a fun ride. It was a hay ride, essentially.
Mhm.
And a newly built trailer for a wedding.
Right.
Mhm. Eileen, when that other date is set up, could you let us know? Because there may be people from CPC that couldn't make it today that would like to
Okay.
hear it too.
Yeah.
And
It'll be sometime in November, as we discussed at the end, because Bob's got the wedding, his son's wedding coming up the end of October. So.
I think that has them wrapped around an axle right now. So
Right. Okay, so we asked Michael Dutton. I'm just trying to pull my notes on that. I usually don't print out so many papers here, and I did today. What the next steps are as we CPC sees them. The eligibility decision that I'd like to see a vote on tonight. Then if it's approved, then the application, the appraisal has to be, it's needed for land grants. The appraisal is actually handled and initiated by the town manager. And I was asking him because to me, it's basically what comes first, the chicken or the chicken or the egg, because technically we can't pay for or hire an appraiser without having a CPA award in place. But the CPA grant recommendation from CPC needs a dollar amount. And if you need the appraisal before you can put the dollar amount with the negotiations. So Michael's thought was to receive the application, vote on it, keep it in CPC until the money's actually negotiated. So once CPC recommends it, if we recommend it, which I seem to think we will, but until it's actually recommended, so at that point, CPC does their recommendation. We don't forward it to the town council yet because it has to have a dollar amount to it. So at that point, once we recommend it, and your dollar amount could say on your application pending appraisal and negotiation for the money. Once CPC does the recommendation for it, Michael can initiate the appraisal. When that's done, whether I believe it would be him or the town attorney, whoever talks with the Hansons and negotiates, once the amount is agreed upon, the purchase price, then it's put into the application, then we'll forward it on to the town council for their approval. Did I get that right, Carlton? Kinda.
I don't agree that I agree. If we get the application, we need to know the money. And so then that's when you start the appraisal. You don't wait until we've gone through everything and negotiated whatever. You get the appraisal up front so you know what your dollars are. And that will shorten it. I don't think Michael's, and we pay for that out of our admin fund. So if we do the eligibility, I think the next step is for the Hansons to submit the application. And I think the step after that is we immediately vote for money to do an appraisal to get a dollar amount. And if they want to do their own appraisal, they can do that. So that's what I think happens.
But that gets back to the point for the Stiles and Hart that you had brought up, that the appraisal was done before the CPC recommendation.
Yes.
And we shouldn't have done that.
No, it wasn't before the recommendations. You guys, and we had submitted in, but the appraisal was actually, and the negotiations were all done in advance before we even had an application. We didn't have the application for the 5,000, for the 5 acres, and because I came on the board around that time. They did the appraisal before we even had an application.
Right, we knew it was coming, so that's why we let it go, because we had talked to the town manager and to Jennifer Burke that about the appraisal that it needed to be done. We knew it was coming, so it was part of our application. So in my mind, yeah, it was okay for that.
But who paid for the appraisal?
CPC.
On the Stiles and Hart?
Yep.
Did you vote it?
Yep.
Okay. I just have a different policy process that I think is much more efficient than what you conveyed. Let's not debate that in this. We need to do the eligibility thing so we can.
Right. No, I was just passing on what the town manager had said.
I didn't hear him say that. I don't know when he did, but
Yeah. Um,
But-
Okay, so you have the eligibility form. Um, Any questions on what was submitted for the eligibility form? And the eligibility form, this is the first time we're using it. It just saves an applicant from doing the whole extensive application. That's, I don't know, like God knows how many pages. And it is very, very, I don't want to say intensive, but it is a long application. So we put, as we discussed before in CPC meetings, the eligibility form. It's like a one-page form, just briefly what the applicant is applying for. That it saves them, the applicant, from doing the whole application if by chance it's deemed that it's not eligible for CPA funds. So that's what we have now. That's what we can discuss and do a vote if we agree that it meets the qualifications for CPA funding.
yes, but we also we need to determine what funding accounts might be in play.
Mhm.
So I'm still not clear. So is this the form that Michael signed, or did we ever get a Hanson signature on it or not?
No, we just,
No, okay.
we said where we have that one, we just accept that.
Okay, right.
Yeah, we're just to fill in the rest of the committee, still trying to work on, where am I here? We're
They-
still trying to
well-
figure, we're still trying to figure out exactly who should be submitting the form. Michael thought the town would submit it. And I strongly believe it has to come from the owner of the property requesting town money, not the town saying, we want to come in and put a conservation on your property. So he was going to look into that and see which way is the right way.
Right. But to move things along, we're just taking the eligibility form that was originally submitted.
Yeah. So
Okay, does anybody have any questions on the form that was submitted?
who hasn't read it?
Well, Gina sent it out today. I've read it. It's not long. It's basically a page.
Right.
Gina, what email was that?
I sent it
document?
out, I think, Monday.
All right, I'm gonna double check.
And thanks to Eileen for helping put that together and move it forward. Basically, it's a small project description. And maybe we should just read it out loud, that project description. I don't have it before me right now.
Okay, I can jump to it. Hold up.
It's the one with the category blocking, and it says acquisition, creation,
Right,
etc.
it's
Yep.
one pager. Maybe two pages.
Why is the housing column checked? Yes, 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 yes.
Because that's the guidance from the state. That chart is the guidance from the state. It's not for this project.
Okay,
It's for all projects.
That's for all projects, yeah.
okay, okay.
So we have to check the boxes at the bottom as to what areas we think funding should come from.
Okay, the project description on the eligibility form says this project, initiated by Hanson Farms, will preserve the agricultural lands owned by Hanson Farms for agricultural use through the use of a conservation restriction. Town CPA funds will be sought for acquisition of the development rights for the Hanson Farm property to ensure its continued use for agricultural purposes. The farm property provides numerous public benefits as one of the last existing ties to the agricultural history of Bridgewater. A thriving agricultural business providing access to locally raised food and employment, and a gathering spot for the community. Its cultivated fields provide scenic vistas along both sides of Route 104. Estimated cost is unknown at this time. It's 600 Pleasant Street, Route 104. The project sponsor organization is Open Space.
And we just need the town manager's signature for it, I think, too, right?
Well,
Or is that
Right.
he signed that and sent it to us.
Yeah.
Right, he signed it.
Oh, okay. It was on the left side of the town manager thing, so I wasn't sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and it, as Carlton said, the question was who actually submits it and signs it. After Eileen had, well, while she was in the process of doing it for Open Space, we found out from Merrilee Hunt, who was the original chairperson, a wonderful chairperson of the CPC when it first started, and it was for years. And talking to her, she was saying that it should come from the Hansons, as Carlton said. It was Murray and Needs who actually submitted the application for the Murray Needs purchase a few years back. We'll hit on that further under new business for the revised form. We accepted this one, as we said, with Eileen signing it or putting it in and Michael signing it. But we are looking into who actually signs the application, which in the future would be the same person that signs the eligibility form.
No, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. So basically, from the explanation, the Hansons want to put their farm, all of the properties that they're dealing with are in 61A. It's about 75 acres. You saw that it's an active farm with an ice cream, I want to say parlor, that's wrong, ice cream shop.
Stan,
They have some, today we learned they have some historic silos and barn. The barn is original, but way back past 50 years ago. So there's that element. They understand fully the need to have a public benefit out of this property. So I'm sure it's eligible because the Murray Needs project sets precedents for this kind of conservation restriction. He pointed out when we did our tour today that there are already water and sewer stubs in certain areas that abut their farm because somebody had their eye on future development of that property for housing or something else. So what we're trying to do is protect the last remaining farm in Bridgewater. And it is a public benefit just by the ice cream parlor.
Yeah, I mean, I feel passionate about it on a personal level too, because it's like, yeah, there's not too many, I really, that's why I personally enjoyed like asking questions with Bob today, because he's just such a dying breed with our citizenry, in my view. But yeah, I agree. It's a good, it's something we want to get right.
So
okay,
go ahead.
it would fit. My original thought was, and it still is, it would be under for the category open space. We could possibly take some from historic, but I think it would be, I would say the whole amount for open space.
Well, I would also submit that it may be eligible for recreation money as long as they commit to installing. But the reality here is that it's open space for conservation purposes.
And the pot of money, if you look at our budget sheets, it's not separated to open space and recreation. It's open space and recreation, I
Okay.
believe. So even though we break it down for what is eligible, I believe the account, the pot of money is, I'm trying to look back, it's open space and recreation.
So, and then moving to the next line, we have acquisition, creation, preservation, support, and rehab restoration. And I think it's the preservation of farmland it's for acquisition of the development rights, which means if we acquire these, we're basically paying up front what a developer might pay to purchase that land and then put houses or whatever on it. And we need a
We're paying the difference, Carlton. We're not paying what a developer would pay, but we're paying the difference between what a developer would pay, but minus the value to the developer, what it is just as a farm.
okay.
But you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what
No.
you meant.
You make a good point. I was skewing that up badly.
Right.
So, and then the other thing is our determination. So let's do this. Are we all agreed, a consensus that it's an open space project?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
And then are we all agreed the purpose of the project is for preservation, or is it acquisition?
Acquisition.
Okay, everybody support that?
Yes.
Yes.
Does anybody want to make a motion to indicate that it's eligible for the money under those two categories? I
Or-
will.
Okay,
I move that we determine that this eligibility project is eligible for funding under open space and acquisition.
Second, Harry.
okay.
second
So that
that.
was Carlton and Harry. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call.
Could I
Josh?
just ask one thing?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you say acquisition, but does it stay as preservation too, to keep it as farm land?
I
You're
think
preserving the land, but the preservation to me is more like a historic preservation. That's just in my mind.
yeah, but look at the table up above. Open space, you can acquire, you can create, and you can preserve. So I think both boxes should be checked.
Yeah,
So I
Okay.
modify my motion to check open space and preservation.
Acquisition and preservation.
Yeah, yeah, open space, acquisition, and preservation.
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I second that.
Maybe we should add at the end by the CPC. Unless,
What was that again, Bill? We have a section on there that says for CPC use only that we're marking it off. I'm checking as we do it because I have to sign it too.
no, I was thinking about the motion.
Oh, okay.
The motion would establish that it's eligible for CPC funds,
Yes.
CPA funds.
Right.
The motion
There we go.
establishes that.
Yeah.
So open space, acquisition, preservation, and eligible would be checked. And then if we vote that's positively, Gina would sign it and we would submit it back to the town and to Hanson's.
Right. Okay, so any discussion on the motion?
Once we approve, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but I just figured I ask again, but is there a time limit for once we get the motion to pass that they're eligible? They can take their time with implementing it, right? It's not a
Correct.
time.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Then I think we're good.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call, Josh.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Harry.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
great. I will, I did all my check boxes. I'll just sign it and I'll get a copy, the Hanson's a copy, and the town manager's office a copy.
And would you send me a copy too, please, Gina?
Yep.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Well,
good.
Step one towards probably this process will take at least a year, but we're looking forward to an application next.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Eileen, talk with with Michael again, because as I said, he talked about asking if we would fund to hire somebody through our admin account to help with the
consultant?
application.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And he was,
I thought when I met with him and Jennifer in August that they had decided against that. So I'm glad to hear that they would still consider that.
right, and he was also looking into the Wildlands Trust and any other organization that might be interested to help out too.
Yeah, he and I talked about that on the ride today, that he remembers, because they dealt with the Trust for Public Land on Murray Needs, which he hadn't
Mhm.
remembered. So he's gonna probably contact them again too. I mean, the person they worked with there is gone, but somebody else surely could assist, so,
Right, okay, yeah, make sure you touch base with him.
yeah.
I suggested to Jennifer Goldson, as we know, she had to cut back on her business a lot with the pandemic. She's now has another office. She's hiring back some of her people. And she did make note one time that on her Facebook thing, that starting with community preservation. So I suggested to Michael to possibly touch base with her. I don't know if she'd be interested in being hired for.
As I recalled, she said she was gonna focus on housing, didn't she?
Right, but we're not
Yeah.
sure what she mentioned, doing more community preservation, and she didn't specifically say housing, so we didn't know she'd take on
Oh,
some.
okay, all right.
She's a housing expert, but she's also done these kinds of projects
Right, yeah.
and served the role that you are right now for this
Right,
very needs.
Will this be the CPC's largest open space project thus far?
I don't know. You mean area wise?
Yes, in terms of the 75 acres.
I
would say yes.
I would think so, because the Murray Needs Farm was maybe 40 or 60 acres.
Yeah.
How about at the NIP? How big was that project?
Probably equal in area, but the house itself was like 400,000. And then the land, I can't remember.
I think it's wonderful that they're across the street from each other like that. I mean,
Yes.
almost contiguous, separated by 104.
Mhm.
Speaks, that says a lot about our values, I think, as a town.
Right,
Bob pointed it out.
They mentioned this, let me see, 1, 2, maybe 3 years ago on Easter Sunday, that they were looking at doing this.
yep, good.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win
Oh, yeah.
for everybody involved. I just
But-
wish more open space were preserved like that. And Bob Hanson was saying that his son will be taking over at some point, the operations, and he's the one getting married that we referred to for the wedding. And his future bride has jumped in completely in helping with the farm. So it should stay in the family for, as an operating farm for many, many years to come.
The
Yeah,
interesting thing that you said about the sewer and water,
Yes.
the reason I say interesting is because I live in the Bermuda Triangle of Pleasant Street where there is no sewer.
Really?
Birch to North Street has no sewer.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Well, you
they
should be
went
down
around, they went up Birch Street, down North Street and back out to Pleasant.
And
Well, you
skip
should be
here.
down on the south side. We have no sewer.
My aunt was like that when she was on Oak Street, Jane. They went up the hill like this with the sewer. They went up the hill like that with the sewer. They were the top house. They never got it. So it was
Well-
on either side of them.
I don't know that there's sewer in that particular cut that's there, but I think there's electrical and street drainage in that. But, you know, you have a chance to get to town in the master plan when you guys, planning board looks at it and accepts it, you can get an action in there about sewering your street.
Mhm.
I'll vote for it, Jean, for
Our
you.
section.
Yep.
Moving on.
Yep, moving on. Documents, update. We've sent the policies and procedures and application and the new revised eligibility form to the town manager and to Jennifer Burke to review. Jennifer sent hers back today, yesterday.
Yesterday.
No, one of them, I think today, yesterday, with her comments on it. Carlton's reviewed them. I've partially reviewed them, so
They're pretty minor.
yeah, we will just, for some reason, when I open them up on my iPad, I can't see the comments, and I haven't opened it up yet on the laptop. So we'll review those, and the CPC has basically looked at them before, so.
Well, yes,
and
but
give
we
their
haven't,
approval.
we haven't received any comments on any of those documents that we sent out, right?
Right,
From our
right,
committee.
no comments, yeah, no
And
comments,
so silence is assumed to be it's okay.
hopefully. Okay. Grant agreement, Wood Letters Carlton has done the drafts. I need to finish looking at them. We'll send those off to the town attorney and the town manager for their comments where they're legal documents. We want the town attorney to look at them. So that's the documents update. Other old business for cemeteries. I know we talked about that. I mentioned last month the Sons of the Revolution. I see we have I never remember the name of the cemetery on Plain Street.
Jennings,
Yes,
Jennings.
yes. I actually found out last week, somebody asked if we knew where, I was at a Parks and Rec meeting, and they asked if we knew where the Japan cemetery was. We all said no. We found out that the Jennings Cemetery was originally the Japan cemetery.
And or Japanese.
I think they just said Japan, not Japanese, just Japan. Yes.
What
Go
does
ahead.
that mean?
Yep. Shoot, you're on. You're up.
Hey, it's Rich and I here. He's listening beside.
Yep.
It was actually Japan, right? But it was,
But it was Jennings' burial ground before that in 1766 when the Jennings family sold the property to Edward Mitchell.
can you hear that?
Yep.
Hmm.
So
Me.
it was Jennings Cemetery before Japan.
Oh, okay.
Do
what-
you know for a fact that there's a portion of it that is the Japan burial?
We've been doing all that investigation.
Trying to find something that lends itself to that. Initially, I thought that it may have been because of the proximity to East Bridgewater, that it may have been a mistake or I guess kind of a comic reference to Joppa Cemetery, and somebody called it Japan. But the thing is, there is a Joppa Cemetery, and which is now Elmwood. So that kind of, I don't think that's the issue. I don't find any reference to Japan, at any time in the deeds. It was always called the burial ground across the street from the property belonging to Havilah Dunphy at that time, or Jennings, right from 1766 when the first burial went in there. It had always been the burial ground next to so-and-so's property. It wasn't officially, the first time I find any reference to Japan Cemetery is actually in the old epitaphs of early Bridgewater, written about 1881. where they call it AKA Japan Cemetery,
Hmm.
without giving reference to where they got that from. It
G-
doesn't.
G- Gina, who mentioned that in your meeting? Because maybe they have
Yeah,
knowledge.
I was gonna say that Jimmy Campbell, who is on Parks and Rec with me, he's the one that mentioned it, and I could have sworn while we were talking, he called something up on his phone. Let me check with him, and we can get back to you on where it came from.
And you feel free to give him our info also.
Sure.
Okay, great.
As I said, the Japan Cemetery it does not show up in any of the official deeds for land transactions around. The only reference to any deeds show at the turn of the last century, some references of selling land to and from the
Dumfries and the Wyman's.
nope, there was an association, the
Jennings
Jennings
Association.
Hill Cemetery Association.
But they're defunct.
They are defunct now.
Mhm. Okay.
I
at
haven't heard
the-
that word before, defunct.
Yeah, Carlton?
Defunct.
I just learned a word today, green cemeteries, and I'm not going to get into it. but
Oh, and Mount Auburn has part of that like that.
Yeah.
they used to be green, I think. So did we forward to you? We saw some funding type stuff for how to restore stones and stuff. Did I forward that to you guys?
No, we've been trying to get in touch with all of you guys and we haven't been able to. So tonight we asked Josh if we could get your emails and also your telephone numbers.
Mhm. I have no problem, and other CPC people.
And as you know, my wife and I went out and we walked that last time after we talked.
Right.
Fascinating place, a good place. But I will look in my emails and see if I can find that and get it to you. Because it had some very good programs, that kind of thing that would be of help, I think.
It's wonderful.
Yep.
We did find one thing for his historic sign marker. As far as Macris, there's a foundation that will give us for free a 7-foot tall, by I think it's 30 inches or 32 inches wide, and it's just, you have the name of the landmark.
Historic sign.
Right, the
Yep.
historic sign,
Historic
and
sign.
then, yes,
Yeah.
and it gives credit to that foundation, actually. And they give you the whole sign, they send it, everything, part of it to us, so that will be nice.
Oh, good. One of the things I mentioned at our last meeting is I was at my cousin's grandson's Eagle Scout ceremony a couple months ago. And at the table sitting with us was a man who, and it was in Rhode Island, but he said he imagines that they have the same thing in Massachusetts. It was the Sons of the American Revolution, and they do a lot for restoring old gravestones in historic cemeteries.
Okay.
And I cited
I'm
actually.
a daughter of the American Revolution and he's the son of the American Revolution. We just haven't paid for that membership. It's very expensive, like the
Oh,
Mayflower
okay.
ones and all that.
Okay. West Bridgewater. I had seen it one day and forgot about it. One of my cousins mentioned it when I was talking about cemeteries were at a meeting a while back were a hot topic for CPC. And she reminded me that West Bridgewater it's a continuation in North Street in Bridgewater. I think it's actually South Street in West Bridgewater, right by Azak's Turkey Farm. There's an old
Yeah,
cemetery.
It's a little
And they're
cemetery.
restoring all the stones there. Was that the right street, Jane?
Yeah, that's South Street. They have the big
Yeah.
cemetery and then there's a little tiny one too. I think it's the Ames.
So there's
The
an
little
aim.
right.
And they've done that one too, so it might be worth talking to whoever in West
Yeah, there's-
Bridgewater. And I
see-
thought if I head by that way and they're still working, I'll stop and see who they are.
I think it's the town.
Yeah,
The
is-
old Bridgewater burial ground that restoration was funded by the West Bridgewater CPA.
Oh, really?
Committee.
Oh,
So you
interesting.
might reach out to them for contacts.
The old Bridgewater one in East Bridgewater or in West?
West Bridgewater.
Okay, of
Westbridge.
If you know where you know where the Keith House is in West Bridgewater?
course, yes.
Yes, go
He's
across that
related
bridge.
to him also.
Go across that, go right or left onto that road, and you go down and you find the old burying ground there. I just walked that whole ground with a gentleman from Georgia whose name is Pratt, and he found out his heritage comes back to Bridgewater. And he flew up and we walked around, we did all sorts of genealogical research,
Yeah.
and we walked and found all the Pratt graves in that cemetery.
Mm.
So, and then we were walking, somebody's doing something here. What's going on here? And then we finally realized their restoration. And I did look somewhere and I found out that CPC in West Bridgewater funded that restoration.
Oh, okay.
So that's an avenue of investigation for you
Yeah.
guys.
Yes.
Okay, and then another avenue too is, and I can share it with you folks, it was sent out to the CPC the other night, or when Josh sent the things. There's a coalition website, our Community Preservation Coalition, and it lists all the projects for the whole state CPA funded. I just got so engrossed in looking at them the other day. There were slews of them over the years that have been restoration of gravestones, historic gravestones. I can send you that document.
Thank you.
And
We
maybe you
also,
can just
so
reach
you'll
out
know,
to, excuse me?
so you'll know, we also have been, because of the pandemic, that's what they're telling us anyway. We've lost a lot of volunteers as well as time that from people that haven't gone back to work, but somehow they helped us more when they were working. So it's been difficult. Also, we have a nationally known preservationist for gravestones and cemeteries. He travels around the country, actually. We've known him for a couple years and his work is amazing. And you had mentioned to us a few months ago that we needed to have some sort of survey done by a professional, but the problem is he usually charges on that one. So we've been trying to get some sort of funding. He's very willing. He's seen pictures of Jennings, what it is presently we've sent him. He's also willing to come up, and he does a state tour, and he's been toying back and forth with us about coming to this part of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, there's no old cemeteries out here.
No.
We're the epicenter for old cemeteries around here.
By the way, do you know Chip Nangio?
Yes, oh yeah.
Okay, because he is a good, he works on restoration too.
He's a good resource. This
He
guy-
was in the beginning. He really
Yeah, this
backed off.
this guy that we've been working with travels nationally,
Right.
and he does local seminars that, you know, people, he would come to us, we would sponsor something in a cemetery, and local people would come and he would show people how to not just clean, but how to repair
Right.
stones that have been broken. You know, some of
Right.
these are early things that look like they've been decimated. He's amazing. The guy's name is Jonathan Apple. And he's somebody that we've been watching his work
He's
pretty
amazing.
closely, and we're trying to work something with him.
We've been working about 6 months with him.
Yeah.
Trying to get it happening, because we told him ultimately, as you know, Jennings is a long-term project and it's going to take a lot of time because of the problem that you know about with getting the fences in and all that stuff. It's still a big problem. We've been working on that. But once we get that done, DPW has agreed to work with another party that has said that they would help to get a lot of the trees out that are rotting and dying and coming down in the oldest part of the cemetery, and they need to come down. They're, you know, dead from the inside out.
They're all
So-
punky inside, right? And they're gonna fall down pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And they're
Yes.
huge. I mean, if even one tree came down, could potentially wipe out.
Last winter we had that
So
happen.
we did have some of the branches come down and still kind of push stones over and damage their location.
But with that extra 10 feet behind, we can get those trees, you know, away. And we found, with this, it's an easement problem, as you all
Yeah.
know, so.
We can't get to work on the fence because the fence right
Or
now
the trees.
is pretty disgusting. It's old.
You've seen it.
Yeah, you've seen,
Yeah.
you guys have seen it, but it's no proper fence for the cemetery. And we can't work on it until we know we can work on the other side of that fence.
Which is what we had before.
Yeah,
So,
we
I actually, after you had told us about the abutters property, I took a ride down and I
Mhm.
tried to look at those houses being built, but I couldn't tell how far back.
well, they've come
Yeah.
back for the past 2 months, and a person who lives there stopped by because she's actually a Hayward. And she's very, very elderly, and she was so happy with what we're doing, but she told us some things that are going on, and they had been promised that it wouldn't be so close, but she wants to be quiet. She said, but she got out of her
She
car.
wants peace and quiet.
It was amazing just to have that encouragement from her.
What cemetery is this? I'm sorry, I've missed some of this conversation. So what cemetery are we talking about?
It's a Jennings Hill and it's the corner of Plain
Plain and
Street
High.
and High Street.
Oh,
It's right
okay.
before Stone Meadow.
Okay, yep.
We're talking to fencing companies now, trying to get some requests for proposals to put in black wrought iron look, but not wrought iron, period type of fencing also. Through about, I think like 3 sides, but then the back would have something else.
Now, the fencing is eligible for CPA funding.
We
Is
did,
it?
we did that for the Mount Prospect Street.
Oh, you did?
Oh, you
Yeah.
did?
In World War II, they took all the iron for the war effort and then they
Yes.
put,
Oh, that's right.
They did a lot of that in ours too.
so early on in the program, we funded that.
Oh, wow.
That's
Right,
Restoration.
and it has to be, it can't be, I can't think of the word. But the fake look iron, it has to be restored to like original
Original iron.
grade.
Oh, really?
But
Okay.
that's so much more expensive.
Well,
That's
They
that's
really
big.
would do
That's big
that?
money to do real cast iron there. Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you're replacing barbed wire.
No, that wasn't the early, because we have
Well,
over
no,
the
no,
stone
no.
and iron is
Oh, in the
on the other
front.
side.
In the front, but all around the back, if you're replacing on
Yeah.
up to the side, everything in the back is
Pardon me?
old chicken wire and barbed wire.
Well,
Um,
we can
is it
afford
over
chicken
50?
wire for you.
Is it over? Is it over 50 years old?
Yes, it is.
I would say
No,
so.
I know it is, because the
Barbed- oh, 'cause-
cemetery.
well, of course, that's
Yeah.
right, because you were there.
Basically, Mass General
Oh,
law.
I remember a little bit of the history, sir.
I wish Steve Rogan were here, but if I understand correctly, what I've read, anything older than 50 years can be considered historic.
Right.
Yes, that is
So
correct.
if that's true, then we would have to replace it with barbed wire?
That's not funny.
No, it's true. I'm being serious.
Well, you'd have to do some research on what the original was. I
Right.
don't know if it was
Well,
stonework.
you
it was
could
a wood
replace
fence.
it with other fencing, but to
Yes.
be
Yes.
eligible for community preservation funds, it has to be back to the original.
Right.
Or it has to meet the federal historic preservation rules.
Right, recommended federal, yeah.
I don't think anyone would want to have that be replaced with chicken wire again,
Exactly.
right?
No.
But I'm. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, Carlton. Maybe I'm speaking out of my realm here, but it has to be within the era of the cemetery. So if there's chicken wire, you could just do something with like maybe a stone wall that's of the era, or something along those lines. It's a little bit different material, but similar to the era of when that cemetery was created.
Well,
I
if you
have-
haven't seen it yet, as Carlton and Gina know, I don't know if anyone else does, the entrance used to be on the side facing Plain Street.
Mhm.
And it was stone wall on the beginning of Plain Street
I know that.
and the other, but it had iron, and you'll see where the steps are, right, Carlton?
The steps, yes. I've
Right.
walked them up and down.
Right,
Yeah.
right, there's a tree growing out of the original steps that were stone and iron. and it's all wooded in, you know, nothing was kept cut down. So all of that has to come down between the DPW and another company we're trying to work with for that, to get that all open again for parking and repair trucks to do the work that needs to be done. So that part definitely we know was stone wall and iron back to the 1700s. It's the other part because Jennings was really done in 3 parts of 3 purchases over the years between the 1700s and 20, 30 years ago, right?
Do we have any photographs from the 19th century? I mean, photography started about 1840. And
We're trying to find those now.
yeah.
You might, Steve Rogan chairs the historical
Right.
commission, and he's pretty good at finding images. So, but I haven't seen him in meetings recently, so he's either not well or he's flat out busy.
I've actually tried to contact him for 3 months now and haven't heard anything back. And he's always saying, please, let's talk. So
Okay.
what's happening either? Hopefully he's okay.
To go back to Kevin's piece, I don't know what you speak of. I'm not knowledgeable in that area. It would require Mass Historical or somebody to.
Right, I'm not.
As long
really
as like Mass Historical validates it, I think if that's my gut feeling, like if Mass Historical validated that says, hey, this is the style of that era, then I'm sure it can be eligible for CPC. I would imagine.
We
Well,
also have the cannon in the front, as you know, and it had the balls, but they also were taken before too, the cannonballs. But they were taken, and luckily they were able to save the cannon. And somebody was going to do the history for us of the cannon, but so far we haven't heard back.
Yeah, we found out that cannon was probably made around 1850, 1860 from West Point Foundry.
Oh, not the Bridgewater one. Interesting.
No.
Not Bridgewater. All the markings on it point to West Point Foundry, where that cannon originated.
Right. And someone that was helping with
that's really cool.
before, it's wonderful, but it needs to be cleaned up properly and restored properly, because some people in the last 50 years painted it with just regular paint, and then kids have come by and done graffiti on it. So we want to get that restored as well.
How many headstones are there in the cemetery?
280.
280, yeah, around
Whoa,
280.
so it's very large.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
There are a lot.
There isn't a
Now,
lot of
is
space
there-
between and the old section.
Is there anything that shows, like who's buried there? Jean, I'm thinking.
Yes,
was
we
it
do
part of
have.
the Rockland Rail Trail. When we walked it, and it goes out and it comes out into, I believe, Hanover. There's a real old cemetery there,
Mhm.
and they have almost like a billboard, and it's a chart, and it says who's, because you can't read the stones anymore.
That's what
And
I
I
was
thought
talking to you
we all
about.
thought it was interesting.
It is something we'd like to do, because we have, out of that many people that are laid to rest there, we have something like 68 that are from the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the War of 1812, and all that. We have others too, but, we would really like to do that kind of chart. That's what we've been talking about, because the first burial was Elizabeth Hayward, was it?
Elizabeth Hayward, yep.
Yeah, Elizabeth Hayward, 1766. She was born in the 1600s, and then the Mitchells, the Haywards, the Keith, Dunphy. We've got so many of the Bridgewater early people there.
Early Bridgewater people.
Yes.
Wow.
Bridgewater.
Wow.
Would the Find a Grave website help at all? Have all of these tombstones been photographed and submitted to Find a Grave?
We are updating it, but it's slow.
They help some. Find
We
a
have
Grave.
it.
Find a Grave, as you know, is pedestrian. It's people that want to take a picture can submit it to Find a Grave.
Right,
So
right.
if it's not a real authority, because you're not going to get all of the graves that are
Details.
listed there.
Right.
The best source right now for the earliest part of that cemetery was in the book on early Bridgewater epitaphs.
Yeah, I think there's
That was
3
done in
volumes.
1881. And the earliest part of the cemetery back then, when they recorded it, when they wrote it down, they actually recorded all the names
And inscriptions.
and inscriptions at the bottom that are
Yeah.
really tough to see. That
Which we
now
couldn't see
are-
till
are-
cleaning.
No, I know. I mean, we've cleaned off so many, and all
Some of
those
them,
things started coming out. But when we first got started on this, a lot of those stones you really couldn't tell who they were.
Right.
And now you can, and now you can see where the additions have come on. And the northern part of the cemetery is such that
The
they're
newer-
newer, they're more recent, so we'll know who they are. Our intent at some point is to catalog this entire cemetery
From Acme Cemetery.
and with all the names and all the places, and have a GPS location that will go into a database that can be accessed by people approaching the town of Bridgewater, and we'll be able to look up and find their ancestor or whoever, and go take the GPS location and go to that gravesite directly.
Right. That's one of the things that Macris actually asks, and the state of Massachusetts asks if you're doing that kind of a thing, is that you continually, as stones are cleaned, go into Macris, make sure that they've been listed by name, birth and death and all that. It's a big process, and I'm hoping personally that we can get a couple of the colleges involved, those that are interested in history and things like that. So it's a lot of work.
It's more work than what people think.
Yes, it
That's
is.
for sure.
It is. Kevin.
Yeah.
I will look up that where I had that email, and maybe Marilyn sent it to you, but I'll find that and send it to you.
Thank you.
Promise.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Any Crossmans in that cemetery?
I think we have one. We're related to Crossmans, both of us.
Well, my grandmother was a Crossman.
Taunton and Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island, are the
Yes.
major ones
Yeah.
that we've gone
Yeah.
to those to check them out.
Is
But
your-
we do have
Well,
some.
Yeah.
The father who came in the 1600s with his son ended up being banished to Rhode Island because he
Yeah.
didn't get along with the
Yes.
Explains a lot about
the
Rhode
religion.
Island.
That's
The-
my
the-
family line.
A lot of
And
those-
then we left in the 1700s and went up to Canada. I guess they they were draft dodgers.
You might be from my branch.
My
Tories.
father married the Alden, Jane Alden.
That's your branch.
The
Yeah.
branch that I had joined the Friends, they were Quakers, and they left and went to Nova Scotia.
Yes, yes.
They lived there for about 2 or 3 generations, and then eventually came into Maine and formed a Quaker colony in Durham, Maine. But that same branch, it's that same Crossman branch.
Well, my great grandfather was Joshua,
Yeah.
and my grandmother came from that family. And they came down here
Oh, yeah.
in the late 1800s, landed down here.
Oh, wow, okay. So-
It's kind of really amazing, isn't it? Because we very far distant, but we also found out that we have many of the same great grandparents like that from the Mayflower, from the early settlers of southern Massachusetts. It's really been amazing.
Okay, are you, before we move on, are you related to the Bradfords?
Bradford's, I think.
From the-
I'm
yeah,
a descendant-
Bradford?
I'm a descendant of Governor William Bradford. Yeah.
My sister-in-law is
Oh,
too.
my.
Oh, you're all
Okay.
cousins.
Okay.
Yeah, when my nephew was born, his middle name, they
Oh.
gave him a middle name of Bradford. And my sister-in-law was saying it was a family name. Her brother's middle name was
Oh, okay.
Bradford, her father and her uncle all had middle names. And she said that her father always said they were direct descendants of Governor Bradford. And they're like, yeah, okay, they didn't know. So my brother
They all,
researched
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
my brother researched it back and they are.
I'll just tell you a quick story on the connection there, Gina, is that you know the other nonprofit that I do, the Smith Farm at Borderland. The farm was built by Dr. Assail Smith back in the 1880s. His wife, Elmira Smith's grandmother was Deborah Bradford. or Deborah Sampson, who was whose mother was Deborah Bradford, and that's where the Bradford connection is.
And that's his grandmother also, Deborah
Yeah,
Sampson.
Deborah
Oh,
Sampson. Did you know Deborah Sampson out of Sharon was the Revolutionary War soldier that dressed up as a man? And,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yes, very well known.
yeah,
That's neat.
Wait, who is this person that dressed up as a man and
Deborah
was a woman?
Sampson.
Deborah Sampson.
Yeah.
Deborah Sampson. I'm gonna look that up.
You have
Oh,
to
you should
look
definitely look her
up.
up. Absolutely.
We all learned about her in school.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
Very
did.
young, and well, you guys are youngins too, so.
And,
Yeah.
and then in my family, the ones who came in the 1630s, the son, his second wife was Billington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
Billington is on it.
that descends from Isaac Billington, right?
Um,
Progenitor, I think, was Isaac Billington. And
yeah, they were the father, I guess. I think he was that came over on the Mayflower. I believe he was a problem. And one of his sons was a problem.
What do you mean by a
we
problem?
descend from problems, I guess, for English problems.
Yeah,
Well, it doesn't take much to get into problems with a Puritan England person. So,
That's
yeah,
true.
you know.
I don't want to take the time to tell you about my grandfather who was burned twice at the stake, but that's another day.
Oh, really?
Is that, are you speaking
I'm
truth?
not gonna take the people's time.
Okay. Okay.
Carlton, now you just piqued my curiosity. I want to know this. Okay,
He
you
was a
got to
heretic.
tell it now.
Well, he was a heretic. He's actually his lineage came into Rhode Island, the Whitman's.
Okay.
He was a heretic, and he wrote his own treatise about the Bible and all that stuff, and
Oh,
he handed it to King James when King James was coming through his town, and they investigate him, and within a year he was tried as a heretic, and he was thrown on the fire, and he groaned, and the people who watched it pulled him off the fire, and they thought he had repented, and so he was pulled off. He hadn't repented, and a month later they burned him again after they tried him.
Oh my
But
God.
he became the last
God.
person burned at the stake in England because he laughed through the whole thing, and they didn't want to have any more martyrs.
holy cow.
Wow. That's quite a story.
They were,
Next time we meet, you guys have to top that story.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
We'll work on it.
Was this James the
That's a
first
good story
or
over a
second?
drink right there.
Yeah.
What's that, Bill?
Okay.
Was it James the First or James the Second? Because there were more burnings after James the First.
1612.
Hmm,
Oh, that's the first.
yeah.
But they
The
also
writer
honored,
of the Bible. The writer of the Bible.
Well, authorized the King James Version of the Bible.
and is that when Governor Brewster, Reverend Brewster, he was the first pastor of Plymouth Plantation. He had one of the first printing presses in England, and the king then told him, either, you conform to our religion or you're off on these boats going, and he became the first pastor for 20-something years. I've been learning a lot about it because Rich traced me back to him as one of my great grandfathers also, so it was quite
I
interesting.
love how they all came for religious freedom and then they
Yes.
banished people.
Well, it actually it didn't stop. Everybody thinks that it ended when it came to coming to Plymouth for religious freedom. But the thing was, people were still trying to seek religious freedom and went to Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
And
No, they were banned to Rhode Island.
Oh,
Yeah.
my other grandfather,
I have a lineage-
Obadiah
what-
Holmes.
One of my lineages was tried in Boston and sent to Rhode Island.
Was
Yeah.
that Obadiah Holmes?
My
Hmm?
ancestor
That's
was
Obadiah
born in Rhode
Holmes,
Island.
Reverend Obadiah Holmes.
Different one.
Was it?
Oh,
He was
okay.
the first Baptist. Well,
They
maybe.
were-
it was
No,
one of
this was a
his
woman.
friends.
This was a woman.
Oh,
Oh.
But
Interesting
you
stories
do
in
have an
this
interesting
group.
story.
Mhm.
Who was yours?
Okay.
William has been quiet, you notice? He hasn't
Yeah.
told us anything.
Carlton, what was her name?
His name was Reverend Obadiah
No,
Holmes.
her name.
No, Carlton.
Carl.
What?
I'm
The
trying to
woman.
think of it. And I can't remember.
And did
wasn't
she end up
Okay,
being
well-
killed in Connecticut?
Well, one of my other grandfathers is John Davenport, who founded New Haven. and then came to
This-
Boston, is buried there.
Mhm.
Let's stop my
As
personal
Great
thing.
stuff.
here. Let's-
interesting as all these stories are,
No, we gotta
Um,
get going.
right, we've been 2.5 hours already, and we still have a few
I
more
need to
things
have a
to do,
cup of
so as
coffee.
much as,
people.
right, as interesting
I'm gonna
as
make, I'm gonna
they
make some,
are-
put some tea on right now. So,
Well, I'm drinking what am I drinking? Black raspberry
Oh.
soda.
I don't mean
Um,
tonight. Some nights meet for a cup of coffee.
Yes, sounds good. Okay, so if nothing else on the cemeteries,
Thank you for asking.
committee liaison reports, I actually have an
Oh.
update for Parks and Rec which is updating what I updated earlier in the meeting. They were working on the pickleball courts today. I don't know exactly what they did, but they were working on them. That's the message I got, and the person will call me back tomorrow when they give me details, but they did get some work done on them today.
Breaking news. Good.
What it was, I don't know, but they were at least working on them. Okay,
Gina, for the pickleball courts,
Mhm.
is that all blocked off still because of the construction with the elementary school there? Or,
it wasn't blocked off until this week, and it's blocked off because they're putting the road in that's going from the school down to Bedford Street. So now it's blocked off, but it wasn't blocked off until this week.
okay, got it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I was gonna drive down to check it out, but if it's gonna be blocked off, I'll wait.
Yeah, they're working on the road. Okay, let's see, I'm just gonna go across the top. Jean, anything from the planning board?
I can't think of anything exciting. I guess it's too
Okay.
late to think.
Kevin, anything else for open space other than we talked about Hanson's Farm?
Nothing else to report. Hanson Farm is kind of our main focus at the moment, of course, and we already kind of went through that, but just facilitating the parks in town, and we're trying to we're thinking about hiring a consultant or something along those lines where we can actually hire someone to put up posts for maps around for the parks. And I really like the idea. I think it was 2 days ago where people were saying for us to get more awareness for the parks, we could put like the park maps, like with like the tax returns for people. So I like to bring that up, and we're kind of working on that to kind of increase awareness for the parks for people as well.
That's a good thought, to put it with the tax bills.
Can you also put them online? Which was the town that has a lot of their information out? Kingston.
Plymouth does too. Plymouth has a lot.
Yeah. And you can, connect to the park and see what it looks like and what the trails
What,
would be.
one of the things you guys can do is go in and review. You were invited to a workshop Monday night. You can go in there probably and still find the policies and the recommendations, especially in the open space thing. And if they're missing something there, you could make a comment on it. Either that or wait till it comes before the planning board as a hearing. But the more we can do early, the better we are.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do you
Good.
know when that's going before the planning board for the
No, I
master
don't.
plan?
Sometime in November, December, January, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Carlton, anything well, we know the master plan's coming up.
I don't have anything right now. Thanks.
Okay, Harry, anything for Concom?
Comcom's been quiet. Meetings are only like a half an hour, and it's mainly conservation business, getting paperwork signed.
Mm-hmm. Well, we make up for it. We take all your time here for CPC. No, what we kind of mentioned on it earlier before you got on, what's with Styles and Hart? Are they doing anything to to move that along for,
Nothing that I've heard.
Michael keeps saying they've got some big plan going, so I'm confused, so
yep,
maybe that's
Okay.
close hold.
okay, who else do we have? Bill,
Um,
update for,
Yes, nothing to report from the Historic District Commission, except our continuing enforcement issues, which seem to be in perpetuity.
they're never gonna go away, you're right.
They're never going to go away, right?
What?
It's
what
always in
enforcement issue?
perpetuity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good, thank you. Then we have, next thing is Memorial Building revised application. We talked about that. That once they get their figures in, that they will put in a revised application from what worked there. The next thing, the Community Preservation Coalition database is what I was referring to. You can go back to every state project since the CPA was adopted, not just in Bridgewater, but adopted by the state. You can search it by category. If you want to search like recreation, you can click that. If you want to do certain towns, I started looking just Bridgewater, then I was scrolling through everybody, then I was playing with the search things. There's a lot of good information there. There's a lot of projects that caught my eye, like I mentioned cemetery restorations, a lot for signage and trails for parklands that I thought were interesting. Doesn't give you a lot of detail, but it tells you when it was done in the town, the dollar amount, what category it came from. It's an interesting site. If you
Can you send the link on that? Or did
yeah,
you?
I sent it out. It was actually, the link was in Josh's email with the agenda.
Ah, okay.
Can we make sure our guests get that link, because that would help them think a bit about and get an idea of how much it costs for this kind
Yep.
of stuff.
Okay, can I just have your email? I know I have it somewhere, but can I just have your email again?
You can put it in the chat
Yeah,
and then copy it.
or if Josh has it too, he can send it along.
Just a quick thing on with the cemetery people here. Forgive me, I didn't know your name. But ever heard of Colonial Stone? I'm not sure. They also do restoration work. You're muted, so I can't hear you, but
Okay,
okay.
no, we haven't heard of them. Where are they and what do they do?
Well, I met them at the airport. We have a private plane in our family, so we bumped into them there, but
Right?
they do like it. I think they're out of Kingston or something, but they gave me his business card. It's called Colonial Stone, and he
Put
does
it
like
closer.
restoration.
Put it closer and she can take a screenshot and
Yeah. I'll put it in the light so you can see better.
Thank
There you
you.
go. That's the back of the car. That's kind of what he does, and then this is his contact information here.
Windows green screen.
Yep, can you,
Oh, crap, I don't know how to do
Up
this.
there maybe, and Zoom is different right here. in this
Oh, wait a
one.
minute. I'm on a Mac, so I've got, just a second. I need to get my grab function here.
Kevin,
Yeah, no worries.
can you say something and hold it up again, just so you show up as the
Well,
active
that-
speaker?
Easier. Let's just write what's
You
the
can just
number?
write it down.
Okay, hold on.
781.
He's doing a
Okay, I
screenshot.
just did a screenshot of it,
Okay,
so.
just got it.
Thank
Good
you,
job.
Tina.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I just figured I'd mention it just before we leave tonight, just to
That's
to
awesome.
share.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Now,
he seemed
just-
like a really good guy too. So
That's great.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
yeah, of course.
Okay. And you're going to put your emails in the chat.
Yes, and also we're sending one for all of yours to, we lost them. You gave them to us, a few months ago, but we lost them. Unfortunately, we've had some computer issues, so I just put mine both of ours, it goes through the nonprofit one. Whoops, I didn't spell right. It's JENNINGSHILL. Sorry. I was going in between him trying to get the screenshot.
Mhm.
We'll get it to you. We'll get it to you.
Okay, and Josh, do you have her email?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, that you can send off to us too.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and I'll send you off the link, or Josh, maybe you can just send it, where you have the link and you have her email, that link for the Community Preservation Data Bank.
Yep,
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Thanks for
Okay.
correcting it, Josh.
no problem.
And that was, like I said, it's just a wealth of information for projects that have been funded in the past for the state. And it might give you some leads for something. For the cemeteries, I found it really helpful for like parklands, what's been funded and paid, and gives an idea, as Carlton said, just a ballpark for what's been paid before, and it tells the full amount of the project and how much was CPC. So that was interesting too. Next thing is the eligibility form that we revised. As we mentioned before, we do have a revised form. As we're looking at it in relation to the Hanson Farm form, we just saw things that would clarify. So we sent that out I sent that out separate from what Josh sent, because like the Hanson Farm one, I forgot to attach it for him. So if people could, CPC members can just, if you haven't already looked at it, basically we put, the changes are that we put a plot number. So if somebody just says like Hanson's Farm and it's the, 600 Pleasant Street, but they have a number of different plots there. So we put in for the plot number. We added, because we had the question, who actually signs it, like in the case of a private group. Example is Hanson's, they put in the application, but we want to show that if it's supported by a town, another town committee or commission, or somebody
Board.
else is supporting it, another individual. We wanted that down there, plus we wanted a spot for them to sign it and for us to sign it. So those are basically the changes. But we did send you out the revised form. So if you have any thoughts on that, send them off to Josh and he can forward them to me.
So you want to vote on that next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, we're getting there. Other new business, it's come to our attention that the sign for the Murray Needs Farm is down. And talking to Bob Hanson today, he brought it up to accountant and noticed it the other day. We talked about it with Michael Dutton. Bob Hanson has said if we buy just the wood for a couple poles, that David Hanson will put them up, will attach them and install it. So Bob figured roughly, I think like $48 for the wood. So if we can vote on that tonight to fund that, we can take it from our admin account. It doesn't have to go to the town council. If we can vote on that, not to exceed, I'd give him a little leeway because he's gonna have to pay sales tax
No,
on it.
if we'll use
a
a
motion-
tax-free number. We'll use a tax-free number if we can purchase it.
Right,
I can use
Right.
the town's tax.
that's true, the tax-free number. I would give him a little leeway in case it's more than the $48. But if we could have a motion, we can vote on that tonight. We can ask Bob to pick up the wood. And David will attach it and put the sign back up.
I move
Oh,
to take,
Go ahead. Sorry.
no, you started first.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, that's very nice of them for them to do that. They're not asking for any compensation. They're gonna do it for free of charge?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
He
I-
said David has offered to do it.
So I move to take not to exceed $75 from the CPC's admin account to purchase new woods for the Murray Needs CPA sign.
I second
Second,
that.
Harry.
Will that be enough money for it? $75?
They
Well,
only asked for 48.
Yeah, he was estimating 48.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, second to Carlton's motion.
Harry,
Seconded it.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, Josh?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
yes,
Jean,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes,
Kevin,
Yes.
Harry.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, good. I will send a note off to Bob Hanson. I will ask him to,
Ina, tell him I'll go with him so we can get the tax-free.
okay, I was gonna say, I was gonna tell him to touch base, but okay, I'll tell him you'll go with him and you'll touch base with the powers that be at the town hall for the tax-free number.
I have a power, yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, good, that's done. Okay, last couple things, upcoming events. Next Monday is to have comprehensive master plan workshop. At 7 o'clock, it's a virtual meeting. It's a chance to do input from
Is-
your respective committees.
Didn't we just have that 2 nights ago? That's the 20th. This is the 22nd.
Oops, did I miss it?
Yep.
I
Yeah, that
missed
was
it.
2
Oh,
nights ago.
gonna
Okay,
say,
so
I
that
thought
already
I
happened.
missed it. I knew I missed it.
Is
I'm
that the
betting
right
he'll get
date
a
though,
lot
the
of-
20th?
I'm sorry?
That's the right date of it. I didn't put the wrong date.
Yeah, 20th is the right date. I was there.
It
Oh,
was 2 days ago.
okay, I missed it.
They put us in workshops that were like 20 minutes each, and then like we would have a great discussion, and then it would like blip us back to the other screen, and it was kind of, I mean, it worked, don't get me wrong, but it was kind of all over the place.
Mhm.
We were
Was it
here- we had-
recorded?
No,
Okay,
because when you go into breakout groups, the recording only keeps it on the main place.
that's
So you
true.
can't record.
Yeah.
But they ask us to address 7 points on 35 policies in 25 times 4, so 2 hours. It was a little bit, you couldn't get into the depth that you needed, but that's just me.
Mhm. I feel
I
bad
agree.
that I missed it. That was part of my forget everything day.
So the next.
Okay, well, I missed that, so I'll pay attention to it. The next step.
So the
Uh-oh.
coalition boot camp, I think, is really good. I forget what the topic is, but I think it's for new people dealing with CPA and CPC, but I think it's a good refresher. I have to go, and it's at noon on the 28th.
Mhm.
If you haven't seen we need to send out the link again if we haven't got it out.
I'll be at work.
Yep. They're also coming up with, at some point, one at night for people that can't do during the day.
I think they're going to do 3 of them.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try for the 28th, or I'm registered for the 28th. Somebody remind me. No, it's in my calendar. I was gonna say, somebody remind me before I miss that one, but I have that one in the calendar. Okay, the next thing is the McElwain School groundbreaking, October 13th at 11 o'clock.
And we're all invited, right?
As far as I know, that's what I was asking is, did the rest of the CPC get the invitation?
Where would it?
I'm
have
not
come
sure how
from?
it went out. It went out from the
Developer.
developer, right?
If
I-
it
I'm-
looks strange, I might not have looked at it.
Well,
Yeah.
they want you to RSVP so they know how many people to plan for. It'll be under a tent.
I got
What
one.
was it? What was the?
It begins with a C. Who's the developer, Carlton?
Capstone.
Capstone, that was it. Okay, so it would come from Capstone. It was just about 2 weeks ago it was sent out. No, just about a week ago.
That's right.
So last Tuesday or so. Tuesday, Wednesday.
What was the date?
The date of the groundbreaking is October 13th.
Oh, I guess I did get one. September 14th was the date it came in.
Okay. Yep, so, if you can make it, RSVP that you're going to be there, as Carlton said, that they just want to make sure they have enough for everybody.
Outdoors and masks are required.
Yes,
They're being careful.
we could be
um,
packing a lot of people in there, so.
Yep.
It's going to be under a tent, so that means people get closer together.
Mhm. Okay, public comment. We just have one public left. Do you have any comment?
Nothing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
No comments. Okay.
Thank you, cousins.
Yeah, let's have coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you all have our email now. I don't know I think Gina and Carlton know, but Rich has also been a genealogist for 42 years. So he does that for Massachusetts and for Maine. And anytime anyone knows anyone that he needs a few more clients, so that would help.
How
Okay.
how much do you charge to have a genealogy report for somebody? Just out of curiosity.
Just usually do $50 an hour for the research.
That's if you have basics already.
Yep.
Well,
But
I just,
maybe they can have a little discount Rich, for their
Well, yeah,
first
of
start.
course.
You
Well,
get
no,
rich on my family because my father's father was first generation here. His parents were born in Italy. His father was an orphan.
Oh.
So that's tough. They had the church over there, the area of Italy that would have records burned down completely. So all the records got burned. My mother's family, her father and mother both came from Lithuania or Poland or Russia, whatever you want to call it, different records that they show for the same two people. If it was beneficial not to say they were Lithuanian, which they were Lithuanian, but they would say they were from Poland. And so whatever was beneficial at the time, and plus the border got changed so many times. My maternal grandfather, the name is spelled different constantly. My mother there were 6 siblings, her and 5 more. I don't think more than a couple of them have the last name on the birth certificate spelled the same way. It's all variations of it. So Rich would get rich just trying to research mine.
That'd be the day.
Yeah.
Rich is one of those people, he'll do 4 hours worth of work for 2 hours of pay, and he doesn't want
Mhm.
probably to say
I'll
that.
give him a bonus if he could find the birth records of Manessa Washburn, born in Bridgewater, maybe Middleborough, maybe, yeah, those two places.
Write it down.
Was it?
What's the name?
Manessa,
Manessa,
yeah, Washburn.
Washburn?
I have his marriage records. I have everything except his birth date, so I don't know his parents.
So it's a man, a male,
Yes, it's a male.
Manessa
Rough,
Washburn.
rough birth year?
He died in he was in the Revolutionary War as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old.
Okay,
So that puts him into 1862,
1862 he died.
1743.
Right?
Okay. Oh,
He's been over 100 years old.
Wait a minute.
No, 1843.
Oh, okay.
1843, okay.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know if we're all connected, but our line possibly goes back to Alfred the Great.
Oh, yeah.
So does mine and his.
Same here.
All right, so we are related.
We are
We are.
related.
Oh, yeah, we are.
But
How
wait a
does that
minute,
look?
if we
Carlton,
want to get,
Carlton, is this for you doing this for like a Revolutionary War or a Mayflower Society thing?
No, I did. I was doing it for the Mayflower and they couldn't find it, but through his wife, Sylvia Caswell, I traced back to
That name rings a bell.
Mayflower, and it's one of the bees, guy, not, what are the three main people?
Brewster?
Brewster. I
Lincoln?
traced back.
Pastor
to-
Pastor.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I'll check it out, Carlton. I'll see what I can
And
find.
if it's Washburn, I trace back to Cook.
Washburn.
Yeah.
Did you understand?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, actually, the Washburns were in Bridgewater. I moved here in 1986. They came here in 1656.
Do you think Manasseh was born in Bridgewater?
The record suggests Bridgewater or Middleborough.
Okay, got it. Oh, Middleborough. Ooh.
Mhm.
South
That's
Bridgewater.
the trouble. Yeah, that's the
Middleborough, the top.
It's
Middleborough.
not recorded. I don't want to
Okay.
keep this going on, but
Yeah, okay, yeah, we can talk after we stop the recording. Okay, next meeting is October 27th at 6:30. Last thing is motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Harry, that was you, the second?
Harry seconded.
Okay, Josh, roll call.
Tina,
Yes.
Carlton,
go.
Jean,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Kevin,
yes.
Harry.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you all.